Please, sir. Please don't be mad at my mom. The boy's voice trembled in the doorway, too big for his small chest. His fingers gripped the strap of his torn backpack like it was the only thing anchoring him to the ground. Beside him, a little girl clutched a clear plastic bag of leftover sandwiches, the company logo smeared by condensation and fingerprints. It was almost midnight on the 47th floor. Michael Collins looked up from his laptop. The office was quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists after the last email has been sent and the last elevator ding has echoed away. The city sprawled outside the glass walls, 100,000 lights blinking like they knew secrets. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. The first thing Michael saw was the trash bag. Open, half full. The sandwiches in the girl's hand matched the ones inside it. He knew because he'd approved the catering order himself. The second thing he saw was their mother. She stood frozen between the cleaning cart and the door, dressed in a navy uniform that had seen too many washes, blue gloves, hair pulled back, eyes wide, like she'd been caught stealing crown jewels instead of cold food no one wanted. "I'm sorry, Mr. Collins," she said. Her voice was low, controlled, like she'd practiced being calm for other people's comfort. "They weren't supposed to be up here. It won't happen again." Michael's gaze flicked back to the boy. The child swallowed. "It's the only food we got this week," he blurted. "Please don't fire her. She wasn't stealing. They were throwing it away." The words hung in the air, the hum of the AC, the quiet tick of the clock on the wall, the sound of Michael's entire world shifting half an inch. He knew company policy. No family in restricted floors. No removal of food or property marked for disposal. No exceptions. He also knew what it felt like to be hungry. There was a moment, the dangerous moment, where the billionaire and the boy stared at each other and something old inside Michael woke up. Something he'd buried under layers of success, suits, and numbers. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Cairo," the boy said. "This is my sister, Zuri. We're not thieves." "I know," Michael replied. The woman's eyes flashed to his. "Surprised? And you are?" he asked, looking at her name tag. "Raven?" she said. "Raven James." Michael closed his laptop. Everything he thought this night was going to be about the projections, the expansion, the new building deal, suddenly felt embarrassingly small next to a child holding leftover food like it was treasure. "How long have you worked here, Raven?" he asked. Her eyes dropped to the floor. 10 years, sir. 10 years. A decade of pushing that cart past his office while he looked through her like glass. Something uncomfortable lodged in his chest. "And how long have your children been coming with you to work?" Raven's shoulders tightened. "They usually wait in the lobby. The security guards keep an eye on them. Tonight was different. The motel." She stopped, like she'd already said too much. "Motel. Not apartment. Not house. Motel." Zuri shifted from one foot to the other, still clutching the sandwich bag. She looked tired. The kind of tired children shouldn't know. "We can put it back," she whispered. Michael studied them. Their clothes were clean but worn. Cairo's sneakers had holes at the toes covered with what looked like black marker. Zuri's hair was neatly braided, but her coat was clearly second-hand, the sleeves rolled up where they were too long. He glanced at the trash bag. Perfectly good food, headed for a dumpster while children stood hungry in his building. "Keep the sandwiches," he said. Relief flooded Raven's face, but it was guarded, like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Thank you," she said, too formal. "I apologize for the disruption. It won't happen again." "Where do I do life? They stay while you clean?" Michael asked. "The lobby," Cairo answered before his mother could. "We do homework. We're quiet." Michael pictured them sitting on those hard marble benches. Cold, clinical. 10 years of nights spent under buzzing fluorescents, while other children slept in beds. "How old are you both?" he asked. 10, they answered in unison. 10 years old. The same number of years their mother had worked here. The same number of years he'd been signing her checks without knowing her name. From now on, Michael said, surprising himself, they can wait in the conference room on this floor. Raven's eyes widened. Sir, that's not necessary. I won't have children sitting on hard benches all night, he said. The conference room has comfortable chairs, a table for homework, and it's warmer. We can't accept. It's not charity, Michael cut in. It's basic decency. He felt strange saying those words. When had basic decency become something he had to consciously choose? Zuri looked up at him with huge eyes. Really? Really? He said. As they turned to leave, Cairo glanced back. Thank you, Mr. Collins. There was something in the boy's eyes. Something that made Michael's throat tighten. Something that looked familiar in a way he couldn't place. After they left, Michael sat alone in his office, staring at the door they'd walked through. He picked up his phone to check his schedule, but instead found himself searching the company database. Raven James, night cleaning staff, employee for 10 years, 10 years of invisibility. And suddenly, for reasons he couldn't explain, that bothered him more than any problem on his desk. The next night, Michael told himself he was just working late. It was easy to pretend. There were always more reports to approve, more deals to study, more zeros to chase. Collins Global didn't run itself, and no one ever questioned the billionaire who stayed until the lights went out. But as soon as his car pulled into the underground garage, his eyes went to the security feed near the entrance. Two small figures on a lobby bench. Zuri, legs swinging above the floor, chin on her knees. Cairo, hoodie pulled tight, backpack at his feet, eyes on the revolving doors like he was guarding something. Michael stood watching them for a long moment. Something about their stillness bothered him. Children shouldn't be so practiced at waiting. He told himself to ignore it, to go straight to the elevator, to stay in his lane. By the time he stepped onto the marble lobby floor, his feet had already decided for him. Do they wait here every night? He asked the security guard, nodding toward the twins. The guard glanced over, then back at Michael, shrugging like this was the weather. Normal. Expected. Pretty much, the guard said. Their mom doesn't have anyone to watch them. They sit there, do homework, stay out of the way. No trouble. How old are they? Michael asked, though he already knew. 10, I think. The guard replied. Been coming since they were tiny. Used to sleep in a double stroller while she worked. Michael felt his stomach tighten. How many nights had these children grown up in his building while he walked past unseeing? And no one ever questioned this? He asked. The guard shifted uncomfortably. They're not bothering anyone. Besides, what's she supposed to do? Cleaning doesn't pay enough for childcare. Michael remembered being 10, counting coins on a chipped kitchen counter, trying to stretch them into dinner, eating crackers in a hotel lobby, pretending he wasn't staring at other people's plates. He'd sworn he would never be hungry again, but he'd forgotten what it felt like to watch a child wait. Where's your mother? He asked, walking over to the bench. Cairo straightened, his posture instantly defensive. She's upstairs, he said, cleaning. Zuri's eyes were big and tired. We can wait here, she added quickly, like he was about to scold them. We don't touch. Nothing. Michael glanced around the lobby. The huge chandelier, the polished floor, the front desk with the logo that bore his name. It all looked different now. It looked like a place that let kids sleep on hard benches while their mother scrubbed offices in the dark. You like sitting out here? He asked. Zuri shrugged. It's better than the motel, she said, then bit her lip like she'd said too much. What motel? The Starlight, Cairo said. Where we stay. Room 114. It's not bad. The manager gives us extra soap sometimes. Michael tried to picture it. These children, this lobby, that kind of motel. The gaps didn't want to close. You do homework here? He asked, gesturing to Cairo's backpack. When there is some, the boy said. Teachers don't always give it. They know our situation. Our situation. Such an adult phrase from such a young mouth. What's your favorite subject? Michael asked. Art, Zuri said immediately, brightening. I like drawing. Math, Cairo said. It always has a right answer. Before Michael could respond, a voice floated down from the mezzanine level where the elevators were. Zuri! Cairo! A woman called. What did I tell you about bothering people? We're not bothering him, Cairo muttered. He came to us. Raven appeared at the top of the stairs, pulling the cleaning cart behind her. The muscles in her jaw worked as she walked down, each step measured, spine straight, even though exhaustion clung to her like a second uniform. I'm sorry, Mr. Collins, she said as soon as she was close enough. They know better. They'll stay quiet. I'll speak to them. Michael studied her. Her eyes had shadows, the kind that came from too many late nights and not enough food. Her uniform was clean but old, the edges of the sleeves soft from wear. The name tag on her chest read, Raven J. Do they always wait here alone? He asked. Yes, she said, voice firm. They're safe. Security keeps an eye on them. That's not what I asked, he said. Her chin lifted a fraction. I don't have anyone else, she replied. Sitter costs more than I make. I can't leave them at the motel. So they come with me. There was no self-pity in her words. Just fact. Michael felt a knot form in his chest. You can have them sit in the conference room upstairs, he said. From now on. Her eyes widened. Sir? That's not... I won't have kids sitting on stone floors while their mother cleans my office. He cut in. It's marble, actually, Cairo whispered. And for just a second, Michael saw a flash of humor in the boy's eyes. Raven shot her son a look, but Michael found himself smiling. Marble, then, he amended. Either way, it's cold, and the conference room has snacks. Snacks, Zuri repeated, the word coming out reverent. Snacks, Michael confirmed. And a couch. Raven studied him, searching his face like she was trying to read something written there. Why? She asked simply. It was a fair question. Why now? After 10 years? Why care suddenly? About these children he'd never noticed before? Because I can, he said. It wasn't a good answer, but it was the only one he had. Thank you, she said finally, quiet but sincere. As she turned back toward the elevator, pulling the cart, Zuri looked over her shoulder and gave him a small wave. It shouldn't have hurt, but it did. Because in that wave, he saw something he hadn't felt in years. Responsibility. That night, in the elevator, Michael kept seeing their faces. Cairo's guarded eyes. Zuri's hopeful smile. Raven's weary dignity. When he reached the conference room, he made a quick call. Send up whatever's left in the cafeteria, he told the kitchen staff. And some juice. For kids. Kids, sir? The voice on the other end echoed, confused. Yes, Michael said. 10-year-old kids who are probably hungry. There was a pause. Right away, Mr. Collins. He stood at the window, watching the city lights, wondering how many other invisible people moved through his buildings. His life. His world cleaning and fixing and maintaining the spaces he merely passed through. When Raven arrived with the twins, she hesitated at the doorway, clearly uncomfortable with crossing this threshold. This was not her space. Not in 10 years had it been. Come in, Michael said. And just like that, the invisible line between their worlds disappeared. What he didn't know yet was how much that line had always been an illusion, and how much it would cost to erase it completely. The conference room looked different with crayons on the table. It was designed for board meetings, not fourth-grade math. Glass walls, a polished walnut table, leather chairs that cost more than a month of someone's salary. Now it had 2 paper plates covered in cafeteria food, a plastic cup of juice, and a crumpled worksheet with fractions circled in red pen. Cairo hunched over the paper, pencil in hand, tongue poking out of the corner of his mouth. Zuri sat beside him, sketching tiny flowers in the margin. Michael leaned in the doorway, watching them. When the security guard had brought up the food, Zuri had stared at the plate like it was a test she was scared to fail. "All this is for us?" she'd whispered. "Yes," Michael had said. "Eat. You're making me nervous just staring at it." Now, halfway through dinner, they were more relaxed. Zuri swung her legs under the chair, happily munching a sandwich. Cairo ate methodically, like he was saving half for later. Michael couldn't stop looking at them. Their presence transformed the sterile room into something alive, something real. How many meetings had he sat through in this very space, arguing over profit margins and market share? How many times had he glanced through these glass walls without seeing the woman who cleaned them? Cairo looked up from the worksheet. "Mr. Collins?" he asked. "Yes? Did you always know you were gonna be rich?" The question landed like a stone in a still pond. Michael blinked. "No," he said honestly. "I didn't." "What did you want to be?" Zuri asked, without looking up, her pencil shading in petals. "Alive," he said, before he could stop himself. They both paused. Raven, wiping a table just outside the room, froze for half a second, then kept going. But Michael saw the flicker in her eyes. She'd heard. "What do you mean?" Zuri asked softly. He hesitated. These weren't the kind of things he discussed. Not in boardrooms, not in interviews, not even with the women who cycled through his dating life, looking for the billionaire, not the man. But something about these children made him want to tell the truth. He stepped into the room, pulling out a chair. "When I was your age," he said, "I didn't think about jobs or houses. I thought about the next meal, the next day. Sometimes that was enough to dream about." Cairo frowned. "You were poor?" "Very," Michael said. Their eyes widened. "But you," Zuri said, waving a hand at the room. "At the skyline." He smiled faintly. "That came later." "Did your dad help you?" Cairo asked. The air shifted. "My dad helped himself," Michael said. "I learned early that no one was coming to save me." He caught movement in the doorway. Raven stood there, mop bucket beside her, watching him. Her face was unreadable, but there was something in her eyes. Sympathy, anger, both. "Mom says God helped us," Zuri said. "I believe that," Michael replied. He looked at Raven. "Do you like working here?" he asked her. She shrugged. "It's a job," she said. "That's not an answer," he said. Her lips twitched. "It's a job that feeds my kids," she replied. "So yes." "That's two questions you answered like that," he said. She tilted her head. "Maybe you're not asking the right ones." He almost smiled. Almost. "What would be the right questions?" he asked. Raven considered him. For a moment, something passed between them. Something that made him think there was more to her than he could see. "You could ask why I stay," she said finally. "Why anyone stays in a place where they're invisible. Why do you?" he asked. Her eyes flicked to the twins, then back to him. "Because sometimes being invisible is safer than being seen." The words hung in the air. For a strange moment, Michael felt like they were having two conversations. One with words, one without. When the twins finished eating, they carefully folded their napkins, stacked their plates, and thanked the guard twice. Zuri even offered to help clean the table. "You've done enough," Michael said, stopping her. "You're the guests tonight." Raven tensed at that word. Guests. For a long time, she'd only been the one who came in after the guests left. "We're not guests," Cairo said. "We're just here because Mom works here." "And what do you want to be when you grow up?" Michael asked him. Cairo's eyes darkened. "I want to own buildings," he said, "so nobody can kick us out." Michael felt the words like a punch. "And you?" he asked Zuri. "I want to draw pretty things," she said, "and make people feel happy when they look at them." He nodded. "Both good dreams." "What was your dream?" Cairo asked. "Before you got rich." Michael thought about it. "To matter," he said finally. "To not be someone people could just step over." Raven's eyes met his, and for a second, He saw recognition there. Like she knew exactly what he meant. "Time to go back to work," she said softly to herself, but loud enough that he heard. As she turned away, Michael had a sudden thought. "Wait," he called. "How do you get home? After your shift?" "Bus?" she said. "Why?" "It's late. The buses aren't safe." "We manage," she replied. "I'll have my driver take you home," he said. "Tonight and whenever you need it." Her face closed. "We don't need charity, Mr. Collins." "It's not charity," he said. "It's practical. I need my cleaning staff rested, not waiting for buses at 2 a.m. She studied him, clearly not believing the excuse. "Fine," she said finally. "Tonight. But just tonight." On his way back to his office, Michael glanced once more through the glass. The twins bent over their homework. Raven moved down the hall, mop gliding in practice strokes. It struck him, suddenly, how many times he'd walked past this very glass and never seen anything but his own reflection. How many Raven James worked in his buildings. How many invisible people kept his empire running while he took credit for everything. He sat at his desk. But the contracts and reports seemed meaningless now. He found himself opening the company database again. Cleaning staff, night shift, wages. The numbers made his stomach turn. How did anyone live on that, let alone support 2 children? Later, as his driver pulled up to the motel, a run-down place with flickering neon and peeling paint, Michael watched through the tinted window as Raven ushered the twins inside. Room 114. The door closed. The curtain fell. And there it was again. That feeling in his chest, heavier now. He didn't have a word for it yet, but he would. Because the next morning, when he arrived at the office, he found himself really looking at the people who cleaned the lobby, who served the coffee, who kept the lights on. For the first time, he saw their faces, noticed their names, and wondered how many other things he'd been blind to all these years. What he didn't realize was that the biggest blind spot wasn't around him. It was inside him. And what he would discover there would change everything. It started with a stumble. He saw it out of the corner of his eye, Raven pushing the mop bucket down the corridor, her step steady, her expression distant, and then her knees seemed to soften for a fraction of a second. She caught herself on the wall before she fell. "Raven?" Michael called, stepping out of his office. She straightened too quickly, cheeks flushing. "I'm fine," she said. "Just slipped." The floor was bone dry. He didn't argue, not then, but he watched. Over the next few nights, he saw things he'd never noticed. The way her right hand trembled when she lifted heavy trash bags. The way she sometimes paused after finishing a long hallway, one palm pressing flat against her chest, breathing slow and measured, like she was forcing her heart to behave. Something wasn't right. Each time he offered help, she refused. Each time he asked if she was okay, she said yes. But the shadows under her eyes grew darker, and sometimes he caught her wincing when she thought no one was looking. How many people noticed a cleaning woman's pain? How many even saw her at all? At 1 a.m. on a Tuesday, he found her sitting halfway down the stairwell, eyes closed, back against the wall. No mop, no cart, just Raven and the sound of her breathing. "Raven," he said softly. Her eyes snapped open. She scrambled to stand, but the movement made her sway. "I was just taking a minute," she said. "I'm fine." He stepped forward instinctively. "You don't look fine." She tried to brush past him. Her foot caught the edge of a step, and this time, she did stumble. He reached out and caught her. For one brief, electric second, she was in his arms. She smelled like cheap soap, lemon cleaner, and something warm underneath. Her heartbeat thudded against his wrist. Too fast, too hard. Her skin was cold despite the labor of cleaning. Her eyes lifted to his. And for the first time, he saw more than exhaustion. He saw recognition. Like she was looking at a man she'd known before he was Sir. He frowned. The feeling was familiar. Have we met before? He asked. The question slipped out before he could stop it. Her body tensed. No, Mr. Collins, she said quickly. Not really. Not really? He repeated. You meet a lot of people, she said. I just clean up after them. But there was something in her voice. Something that didn't match her words. Have you ever felt that strange sensation of knowing someone, even when you can't place them? Like a melody you recognize but can't name? He set her gently back on her feet, but kept one hand on her arm to steady her. Take the night off, he said. I'll pay you for the full shift. I can't, she protested. If I don't do my floors, I own the floors, he said. They can wait. You, on the other hand, can't pass out on the stairs. Her lips pressed together. She wanted to argue. He could see it. But then her shoulders dropped, just a little. Thank you, she said. As she walked away, one hand trailing along the wall for balance, he felt a cold, unwelcome thought creep in. How many times had she almost fallen when he wasn't there to catch her? How many other women had he failed to catch? The next morning, he called HR. Send me the file on Raven J. He stopped, realizing he didn't even know her last name. The night cleaner. Raven. Employee ID ending in 73. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Yes, Mr. Collins. It's a bit old, but we'll pull it. Something about the hesitation in the HR manager's voice made him uneasy. An hour later, a thin folder landed on his desk. Too thin for 10 years. He flipped it open. Name, Raven James. Position, cleaning staff. Night shift. Start date, 10 years ago. Prior internal position, administrative assistant, Collins Holdings. Terminated from that role. Reassigned to maintenance after internal incident. He froze. Administrative assistant? Not always a cleaner? The word incident was underlined in red ink. The explanation box below it was blacked out. Redacted. He flipped to the next page, where employee reviews should have been. Empty. Like 10 years of service had been erased. On the final page, a single signature authorized the transfer. Approved by Richard Collins, his father. Michael stared at the page. His pulse ticked louder in his ears. His father had been CEO before him, stepping down 3 years ago, when health issues forced an early retirement. But Richard Collins still held significant power on the board. Still kept his fingers in company decisions. Still kept secrets, apparently. Michael dialed his father's executive assistant. When did my father last have direct involvement in HR transfers? He asked. Mr. Collins hasn't handled personnel matters in years, the assistant said. Not since before you took over. Did he ever directly transfer someone from administration to maintenance? A pause. Sir, that would be unusual. Those departments report to different directors. I need to know about a specific case. Michael pressed. Raven James. About 10 years ago. The silence stretched longer this time. I'm sorry, sir, the assistant finally said. I've been instructed not to discuss certain personnel matters. Even with you. The hair on the back of Michael's neck rose. Who gave that instruction? Your father, sir. Michael hung up. He stared at the redacted file. What had happened 10 years ago? Why would a woman go from administrative assistant to night cleaner? Why would his father personally intervene? And why did he feel like he was missing something important? Something that connected him to Raven James more directly than he realized. That evening, he found himself lingering in the office longer than usual. Waiting. Watching. When Raven arrived with the twins, Zuri ran to him holding up a drawing. Look what I made you, Mr. Collins. It was a picture of a tall building with stick figures standing outside. One big figure and two small ones, holding hands. That's very good, he said, smiling. Who are these people? That's me. And Cairo, she said. And that's you. His throat tightened. Where's your mom in this picture? Zuri pointed to a figure inside the building, holding what looked like a broom. She's working, but she's happy because we're not alone anymore. Not alone. The words settled over him like a weight. He looked up at Raven, who was watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. "Raven," he said, "could we talk? In private?" Her body tensed, but she nodded. When the twins were settled in the conference room, with their homework and snacks, she followed him to his office. "Close the door," he said. She did, but stayed standing near it, ready to flee. "What happened 10 years ago?" he asked directly. The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you mean," she said. "I saw your file," he said. "You weren't always cleaning staff. You were an administrative assistant. Something happened. An incident. My father was involved. I want to know what." Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "Why?" she asked. "Why now? After 10 years of walking past me like I was part of the furniture, why do you suddenly care?" "Because something doesn't add up," he said. "Because you recognized me in that stairwell. Because my father specifically ordered that no one talk about you. Because your children are 10 years old, the same amount of time you've been cleaning these floors." She flinched at that last part. And suddenly, a terrible possibility bloomed in his mind. "Raven," he said, his voice dropping lower. "Did you know me before?" She looked at him, and for a moment, he saw naked pain in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "I knew you." "How?" She shook her head. "It doesn't matter now. It matters to me," he insisted. "It didn't matter to you then," she shot back. "Why should I believe it matters now?" Before he could answer, she turned and reached for the door. "Ask your father what he did," she said, her back to him. "Ask him what he took from me. From you. Ask him about the letter." "What letter?" But she was already gone, the door closing behind her. Michael stood in the silence of his office, heart pounding. What had his father done? What had been taken? And why did he suddenly feel like the answer was written in Cairo's defiant eyes and Zuri's gentle smile? He picked up his phone. It was time to call his father. He didn't mean to follow them. That's what he told himself anyway. He left the office later than usual, mind buzzing with fragments of Raven's redacted file. On the street, the night air pressed cool and damp against his face as he slid into the back seat of his car. "Home, sir?" the driver asked. Michael hesitated. Then he saw them. Across the street, Raven walked with the twins under a flickering streetlight. Zuri's backpack was almost as big as she was. Cairo walked close to his mother's side, one hand on the cleaning cart handle she'd brought down to the loading dock. "Follow them," Michael said. The driver glanced up in the mirror, surprised. "Yes, sir." They stayed a healthy distance back, tires rolling slow. The city shifted as they moved, bright towers fading into older buildings, clean sidewalks giving way to cracked pavement. Have you ever followed someone and watched their world transform before your eyes? Seen how the lights get dimmer, the streets get rougher, the safety you take for granted slips away block by block? Raven turned down a side street, lined with old motels. Neon signs buzzed overhead. A few doors were boarded up. Some residents smoked outside, faces pale in the cold light. She stopped in front of a building with peeling paint and a crooked vacancy sign. Michael felt his stomach sink. Raven shifted the twins' backpacks onto her shoulder, then dug in her pocket for a key card. The twins were quiet, tired. Cairo rubbed his eyes. Zuri leaned into her mother's hip. She opened the door to a ground floor room and ushered them inside. The door closed. The curtain fell. Michael sat there in silence, watching the blank fabric panel. Luxury hotel suites, a penthouse with a private elevator, a company jet, and the woman who'd cleaned his office for 10 years went home to a motel room. He swallowed. "Drive around the block," he told the driver. Slowly, as they circled, he saw more. The cracked parking lot, the dumpster overflowing with trash. A man slumped against the wall, either asleep or unconscious. "Stop here," Michael said suddenly. The car pulled over, engine purring. "Wait for me," he said. Before he could think better of it, he stepped out. The night air felt different here, heavier somehow, charged with a tension he rarely had to feel. He approached the motel office. Through the smudged window, he could see a desk clerk watching a small TV. Feet up, expression bored. Michael stepped inside. The bell over the door gave a tired jingle. "Help you?" the clerk asked without looking up. "Room 114, Michael said. "The family there. How long have they been staying here?" Now the clerk looked at him, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Who's asking?" Michael pulled out his wallet and laid $500 on the counter. The clerk's eyes widened. 6 years, he said, taking the money. On and off before that. More on than off lately. 6 years, Michael repeated. In a motel. The clerk shrugged. Better than the shelter. Lady works hard. Kids are quiet. No trouble. The room condition. Basic. Bed, bathroom, mini fridge. What do you expect for $60 a night? Michael's penthouse bathroom was bigger than their entire living space. Do they have enough? He struggled for the word. Everything? The clerk gave him a strange look. Mister, nobody here has enough. That's why they're here. Michael nodded. The words felt like stones dropping into his stomach. How many people in his buildings lived like this? How many cleaned his offices by night and slept in places like this by day? How many times had he complained about a speck of dust while people worried about having a roof at all? Thanks, he said, turning to leave. Hey, the clerk called after him. You a relative or something? Michael paused at the door. Or something, he said. Back in his car, he sat in silence. Home, sir? The driver asked again. Yes, Michael said. Home. At his building, the elevator ride up to the penthouse felt longer than usual. The polished chrome walls reflected his face back at him from all angles. Expensive suit, expensive watch, eyes that looked tired, old in a way that had nothing to do with age. He stepped into his apartment. Silence, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, glass and steel and stone arranged in magazine-perfect harmony. He opened the fridge, shelves full of food, fruit, salad, leftovers in labeled containers, rows of drinks. He closed it again. For the first time in a long time, it all looked wrong. How many meals could he have provided with what he spent on a single dinner? How many nights in a real apartment could his watch have paid for? His father used to say, if you don't like how something looks, fix it. But standing there in the dim light of his designer kitchen, Michael realized something brutal. He didn't even know where to start. Was the problem the empty apartment? The motel on the other side of town? The redacted file? The way his chest squeezed when he thought of Raven almost collapsing on the stairs? Or was it the possibility he was afraid to name, that whatever had happened to her 10 years ago was somehow his fault? He poured himself a drink, didn't touch it. Instead, he picked up his phone and stared at a contact he hadn't called in months. His father, the man who had signed that file, the man who had fixed whatever happened with Raven, the man who had kept secrets that were starting to crack open like ice in spring. How many times do we look away from things that make us uncomfortable? How many lives continue in struggle while we pretend not to see? His thumb hovered over the call button. What would his father say? What would he learn? Did he even want to know? Sometimes, truth is like surgery. It hurts, it cuts, it bleeds. But without it, the poison remains. The phone felt heavy in his hand. The twins were 10 years old, the exact amount of time Raven had been cleaning floors instead of working in administration. 10 years since whatever incident his father had handled. 10 years of a motel room, while he lived in a penthouse. The math was starting to add up to something that made his stomach turn. He pressed the call button. It rang once, twice, 3 times, then a click. Michael? His father's voice, sharp even at this late hour. This is unexpected. We need to talk, Michael said. About? Raven James. There was a pause. So brief anyone else might have missed it. But Michael knew his father, knew his calculations, knew when he was deciding how much truth to parcel out. Who? Richard Collins asked. A lie. The first of many, Michael suspected. The cleaning woman who used to be an administrative assistant, Michael said. The one whose file you redacted. The one with 10-year-old twins. The one you ordered your staff never to discuss. Another pause. Longer this time. It's late, his father said. And you're digging into ancient history. Whatever has you worked up can wait until— No, Michael cut in. It's waited 10 years. That's long enough. Ice clinked against glass on the other end of the line. His father was pouring a drink. Come for breakfast tomorrow, Richard said. 8 o'clock. We'll discuss your concerns. Tonight, Michael insisted. That's not a request, son. 8 o'clock. And Michael? What? Whatever you think you know. Whatever bleeding heart crusade you've launched for the cleaning lady. Remember that every decision I've made was to protect you. To protect us. The line went dead. Michael stood in his silent apartment, phone still in his hand. His father's words echoed. Protect you. Protect us. But from what? From who? And at what cost? He walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was a motel room, with 3 people asleep inside it. 3 lives that had somehow crossed paths with his, in ways he was only beginning to understand. His father knew the truth. And tomorrow, so would he. But some truths change everything. And this one was about to shatter the careful glass walls he'd built around his life. Richard Collins. The voice at the other end was sharp, impatient, a man who didn't like surprises. It's me, Michael said. A beat of silence, then a chuckle. Well, well, his father said. To what do I owe this rare honor? Need advice on another merger? Or did your conscience finally find my number? Michael ignored the jab. There's a woman who works here, he said. Raven James, night cleaning staff. Her file says she used to be an assistant at Collins Holdings. It also says she got reassigned after an incident. You signed off on it. What did you do? Another pause. You're digging through maintenance files now? Richard scoffed. Didn't you used to have bigger fish to fry? Answer the question, Michael said. His voice came out flatter than he expected. Ice clinked in a glass on the other end of the line. She got herself into trouble, his father said. Got too close to someone she shouldn't have. There were tears, accusations. I didn't need HR turning my office into a soap opera. So I handled it. Gave her a mop instead of a lawsuit. She should be grateful. Michael's gut twisted. Too close to who? He asked, though part of him already knew. There was a smile in his father's voice now. You really don't remember, do you? Richard said. You were always good at walking away from messes and letting me sweep up. The room seemed to tilt. Memory fragments flickered late nights at the office. Shared coffee. A laugh that made him look up from his work. I remember. She worked here, Michael said slowly. I remember. Drinks. Late nights. Talking. She was smart. She cared about things. And then I left for 6 months to close that deal in Chicago and clean up our debt. When I came back, she was gone. Well, that's one way to tell it, his father replied. Here's another. Poor girl. Thought a few smiles and shared sob stories meant something to the boss's son. Came in one day, waving a pregnancy test, talking about responsibility. I couldn't have that noise in the office. You were on your little I need to find myself tour. So I fixed it. Michael's chest went cold. You fixed it how? He asked. I told her if she tried to make it public, she'd be out on the street. Richard said. No job, no reference. I reminded her we owned the building, her landlord, her future. Then I reassigned her to nights. Out of sight, out of mind. For everyone's sake. For my sake? Michael whispered. For the company's, his father said. You were a Collins. She was replaceable. I protected you. You're welcome. Have you ever had a moment when the past suddenly rewrites itself? When what you thought was true shatters and reforms into something unrecognizable? Michael couldn't breathe. Was it even true? He asked. Did you ever check? Richard snorted. A girl like that? Crying in my office? Of course she'd say it was yours. That's what they do when they see a golden ticket. Whether it was true or not didn't matter. What mattered was stopping the story before it started. Memories were coming faster now. A letter on his desk the night before he flew out. His name written in neat handwriting. He'd planned to open it on the plane. He never saw it again. "Did you take something off my desk that week?" Michael asked. "A letter. From her." "I cleaned up," his father said. "Like I always do. Sometimes, cleaning means shredding things before they stain the brand." Michael's grip tightened on the phone. "You had no right," he said. "I had every right," Richard replied. "You're emotional. I'm practical. That's why we survived." "Survived?" Michael repeated, his voice rising. "You took a woman's career. You took my—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Your what?" his father challenged. "Your fling? Your mistake? You were 25, Michael, with your whole future ahead of you. You think you wanted to be tied down to some secretary and her sob story? That wasn't your choice to make," Michael shouted. "It's always been my choice," Richard said coldly. "This company is my legacy. I wasn't about to let you throw it away on the first pretty face that batted her eyes at you." 10 years, Michael said, his voice breaking. "She's been cleaning my office for 10 years. And the job has benefits, health insurance, stability, more than she deserved after trying to trap you." "She wasn't trying to trap me," Michael said. "She was telling me something I had a right to know." "Oh, please," Richard scoffed. "Don't be naive. Women like that see dollar signs, not people." "Women like what?" Michael demanded. "Women from her background, her class." The word dripped with disdain. Michael thought of Raven's quiet dignity, her strength, the way she protected her children, the way she worked without complaint, night after night, while he walked past her without a glance. "Those children," Michael said softly. "Cairo and Zuri, they're 10 years old." Silence. "They're mine, aren't they?" he pressed. Richard sighed. "If they're real at all, who knows? These situations are always messy. That's why I handled it cleanly." "Cleanly?" Michael repeated. "You call this clean? A woman raising my children in a motel room while cleaning my office at night? While I live in a penthouse and throw away food they dig out of the trash?" "Spare me the bleeding heart routine," Richard said. "You've been perfectly content with your life until now. Don't pretend this sudden conscience isn't just a midlife crisis. Or worse, some misguided attraction to the help." Michael ended the call. The silence that followed was louder than his father's voice. He stood there, phone still in his hand, as the pieces fell into place. Raven in HR, shaking, a positive test, his father's cold eyes, a reassignment, night shifts, 2 kids who looked too familiar. He thought of Cairo's stubborn jaw, Zuri's thoughtful gaze. He thought of Raven in the stairwell, hand over her heart. "God," he whispered, "how many people carry the weight of decisions made for them? How many lives are redirected by the powerful with a single signature?" His father had protected him all right, protected him from the consequences of his own actions, protected him from responsibility, protected him from knowing his own children. At what cost? At what cost to Raven, working herself to exhaustion, her health failing? At what cost to Cairo and Zuri, growing up in a motel room with a mother who had to clean all night and parent all day? At what cost to himself, the part of his humanity that should have been there, should have known, should have helped raise them? The phone buzzed in his hand. A text from his father. "Let it go, Michael. Some stones are better left unturned." He threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. The clock on the wall showed 2:17 a.m. In 4 hours, Raven would finish her shift. She would collect her children, who had slept on office furniture while she cleaned. They would take the bus back to their motel room. And he would go on with his life, pretending he didn't know. Or he could do something else entirely. He grabbed his keys. There are moments when your whole life turns on one decision. This was one of them. The elevator took too long. He took the stairs, running down them two at a time. By the time he reached the office level, his heart was pounding, but not from exertion, from the weight of 10 years of absence, from the burden of what he was about to do, from the knowledge that once he spoke the truth out loud, nothing would ever be the same. He burst through the stairwell door, and there she was, Raven, pushing her cart down the hallway, head down, moving with the slow precision of someone conserving energy. She looked up at the sound of the door. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Michael knew exactly what he had to ask her. He didn't wait for the elevator. He took the stairs, taking them two at a time, lungs burning more from panic than exertion. Third floor. The corridor smelled like cleaning fluid and office paper. The low hum of nightlights filled the space. Raven was there, pushing her cart, head down. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, fast, uneven. "Mr. Collins?" she said. "Is something— Who is their father?" he blurted. The words came out too loud. They bounced off the empty walls. She froze. "What?" she whispered. "Zuri and Cairo," he said, chest heaving. "Who is their father?" Her eyes went wide, and for the first time since he'd really started seeing her, Raven looked afraid. "You know who their father is," she said quietly. "Do I?" he asked. "Because my father told me he handled some problem while I was gone. That you came to him about a baby. That he reassigned you. That he threw away your letter before I ever saw it." Her face changed. Pain, anger, something like grief flickered across it so fast it left him dizzy. "He told you that?" she asked. "He told me he protected me," Michael said. "He told me you were looking for a golden ticket. That he did what he had to do for the company, for me." She laughed then. It wasn't a happy sound. "Of course he did," she said. "Rich men always make themselves the heroes in their own stories." "Raven," he said, voice breaking. "Are they mine?" Have you ever asked a question when you already knew the answer, but needed to hear it out loud anyway? When the truth was already burning in your chest, but you needed someone else to confirm it. She stared at him like she could set him on fire with her eyes. "What do you think?" she whispered. Images exploded in his head. Zuri, biting her lip when she concentrated, just like he did when he was a kid. Cairo, bristling when he felt small, just like Michael had done every time a man in a suit looked past him. He thought of their ages. 10. The same number of years on Raven's file. The same number of years his father had been congratulating himself on saving the family name. His legs went weak. The corridor tilted. He reached for the wall and missed, dropping to his knees on the thin office carpet. People love drama until it's real. This was real. Raven watched him, chest rising and falling fast. "I wrote you," she said. Her voice wasn't soft now. It was sharp. "I waited for you, I thought. You loved me enough to listen. You never came. Instead, your father called me into his office and told me I was stupid, greedy, and lucky to keep my job." She swallowed hard. "I had two options," she continued. "Abort them or raise them alone. He made that very clear. I chose them. I chose to keep my babies. And then he pushed me into the shadows and told me to mop." Tears blurred his vision. "I didn't know," he said. "Raven, I swear to you, I didn't know. If I'd seen that letter, I would have—" "You would have what?" she cut in. "Dragged me into your glass tower? Fought him? Run? You were still half-made back then, Michael. You hadn't grown this," she said, gesturing to his suit, his building, his world. "But you did have a choice. You left. You chose the deal. I chose two hungry mouths." Her words hit him like physical blows. "The night before I left," he said, "there was a letter on my desk. Your handwriting. I was going to read it on the plane. I told you everything," she said. "That I was pregnant. That I was scared. That I needed to know if you meant the things you'd said. If I meant anything to you beyond late nights and coffee and all those promises about changing the world together. I never saw it. he whispered. My father took it. He shredded it. And you never wondered why I disappeared? She asked. Why the woman you said you couldn't stop thinking about suddenly wasn't there anymore? He closed his eyes. Images flashed. A younger him, suitcase in hand, boarding a plane, thinking there'd be time for everything later, thinking love would wait, that people would wait, not realizing life doesn't pause for your ambition. I asked about you, he said. They told me you'd transferred to another department. I was busy, distracted. The deal in Chicago was falling apart. I meant to find you when things calmed down, but then you forgot, she finished. Because people like me are forgettable to people like you. That's not true, he protested. It is, she said. You walked past me for 10 years, Michael. 10 years. You approved budgets that kept my wages so low I couldn't afford an apartment. You stepped over my cleaning cart. You nodded without seeing me. You left coffee cups for me to wash without a second thought. Every word was true. Every word cut deeper than the last. I'm sorry, he whispered. I am so sorry. Silence stretched. When he opened his eyes, her face had softened, but only slightly. What are you sorry for? She asked. For not knowing? Or for not seeing sooner? Both, he said. He looked up at her from the floor. The billionaire on his knees before the janitor. No cameras, no audience, just truth. You should hate me? He said. I did, she admitted. For a long time, until I got too tired to carry hate and hungry kids at the same time. Why didn't you tell me when I came back? He choked. Why didn't you walk into my office, scream, demand? I saw you on TV, she said. I saw you standing next to your father, in your suit, talking about profits and expansion. You looked like him, sounded like him. The boy who shared cheap coffee with me and talked about changing the world was gone, and I was mopping his reflection off the floor. She shook her head. If you wanted to know, she added, you would have looked down. Just once. In 10 years. The words cut deep because they were true. Have you ever realized how completely you failed someone? How your choices or your failure to choose shaped lives you didn't even know you were affecting? He bowed his head. For the first time since he was a scared kid in a cheap apartment, Michael Collins prayed without thinking about it. Not for money, not for success, for a second chance. The twins, he said. Do they know about me? Raven shook her head. They know their father was someone who couldn't stay. They don't know he was someone who didn't even try to find them. That's going to change, he said. If you'll let me, I want to know them. I want to help. I want to be in their lives. Why? She asked. Because you feel guilty? Or because you actually care? Both, he admitted. Right now, both. But I want it to be just the second reason. I want to care about them because they're people, not because I owe them. She studied him, her face a map of emotion, suspicion, hope, fear, exhaustion. What are you going to tell them? She asked. Whatever you want me to, he said. But I think the truth would be best. The truth? She repeated. That their father was too busy becoming a billionaire to notice them? That their father made a terrible mistake, he corrected gently. That he will spend the rest of his life trying to make up for it, if they'll let him. She took a deep breath. I need to think, she said. This isn't just about me. It's about them. They've been through enough already. He nodded, still kneeling. I understand, he said. She looked down at him, the man who owned the building, who signed her checks, who had ignored her existence for a decade, on his knees on the floor she'd just cleaned. Get up, Michael, she said softly. It doesn't suit you to kneel. It suits me more than I realized, he replied. Slowly, he rose to his feet. They stood facing each other in the empty hallway, the cleaning cart between them. A decade of silence. A decade of missed moments. A decade of choices that couldn't be undone. What happens now? He asked. Before she could answer, there was a soft sound from down the hall. They both turned. Zuri stood in the conference room doorway, sleepy-eyed and confused. "Mom?" she called. "Is everything okay?" The little girl's eyes moved from her mother to Michael, then back again. "Why are you crying?" she asked, voice trembling. And in that moment, Michael realized that whatever answer Raven gave his question would change not just his life, but the lives of two children who had never asked to be part of this story. Two children who were his. Two children who deserved more than a father who was just now learning their names. He didn't go home that night. He ended up in the conference room again, sitting at the head of the table while Zuri and Cairo dozed, their heads pillowed on their crossed arms. Raven cleaned around them in silence. Every so often, she would pause and look at them the way only a mother can, checking their breathing, the angle of their necks, whether their feet would go numb hanging in the air like that. "Why didn't you tell them?" Michael asked quietly. "About me?" Raven wrung out her mop. "What was I supposed to say?" she replied. "That their father was somewhere in the sky, in a glass box, eating catered meals and forgetting my name? That he didn't know their faces? That he had every chance to look down and never did? He had no answer. I wasn't going to raise them on the story of a man who didn't show up," she added. "They deserve better heroes than that." He swallowed. "I want to be better," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. "You're late," she said. "But you're here." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it wasn't a closed door either. How many chances do we miss in life? How many moments slip away while we're looking elsewhere? And when we finally turn around, how do we even begin to make things right? The next morning, he called his lawyer. He didn't start with apologies. He started with numbers. "I want trusts set up for two children," he said. "Education, housing, health. Their names are Zuri James and Cairo James. I'll send their information. I also want their mother's status changed on all company documents. She's not maintenance staff anymore. Mr. Collins, she doesn't exactly fit the standard executive profile," the lawyer cautioned. "I didn't ask what she fits," Michael said. "I'm telling you who she is. She's the mother of my children. She's the reason I even have a chance to be a father at all. Put her on a salary that reflects that." There was a pause. "Yes, sir," the lawyer said. He went to the motel that afternoon. The hallway smelled like old smoke and bleach. The carpet was stained, pattern long faded. He knocked on the door with his heart in his throat. Raven opened it, eyes wary. Zuri sat on one of the beds, drawing. Cairo rummaged in a plastic bag that passed for a dresser. "This is where you live?" Michael asked softly. "This is where we sleep," she corrected. "We live wherever they feel safe." He held out an envelope. "What is it?" she asked, not taking it. "An apartment?" he said. "Decent neighborhood. Near a school. 2 bedrooms. It's in your name. The rent is covered for a year. If you don't want my name anywhere near the paperwork, I'll stay out of it. But you and the twins are not staying here." She stared at the envelope like it might explode. "Why?" she whispered. "Because I can't change the fact that I was gone when you needed me," he said. "But I can change where my kids sleep." "They're my kids," she said. "They're ours," he replied gently. She flinched at the word. After a long moment, she took the envelope. "For them?" she said. "For them?" he agreed. As he turned to leave, a small hand tugged his jacket. "Mr. Collins?" Zuri asked, eyes wide. "Yeah?" he said, forcing his voice to stay steady. "You're not gonna disappear, right?" she whispered. "People do that. They say big things and then they go." The question hit him like a physical blow. How many people had disappointed this child already? How many promises had she seen broken? He knelt so they were eye level. "I can't fix the years I missed," he said. "But I'm not running this time. You'll see me so much, you'll probably get sick of me." Cairo snorted. "Impossible," he muttered. Michael smiled. It hurt, but in a good way. Like a cast coming off a bone that healed wrong but was trying again. 3 days later, he helped them move into the new apartment. It wasn't fancy. He'd been careful about that. A comfortable two-bedroom in a safe building with good schools nearby. Nothing flashy enough to make them feel like charity cases. Nothing humble enough to feel like punishment. Just a home. Zuri ran from room to room, touching everything, her eyes wide with wonder. "We have our own bathroom," she squealed. "With a tub." Cairo was quieter, inspecting the locks on the doors, testing the water pressure, opening and closing the fridge like he couldn't believe it would always be there. "Is it okay?" Michael asked him. Cairo shrugged, but his eyes were suspiciously bright. "It's fine," he said. Then, almost too quiet to hear, "Thank you." That evening, they sat at a real table eating pizza. Zuri had chosen the toppings: pepperoni, extra cheese, no vegetables. Cairo had set the table, carefully counting out napkins like they were precious. "Do you want to stay?" Raven asked Michael as they finished eating. He looked up, surprised. "For a while? Or for dinner?" she clarified. "Not anything else. Just dinner. The kids have questions." He nodded. "I'll stay as long as they want." After the pizza was gone, Zuri crawled onto the couch beside him. "Are you rich?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Yes." "Then why do you look sad sometimes?" she pressed. The question caught him off guard. "Because money doesn't fix everything," he said honestly. "Like what?" Cairo asked, sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching him. "Like missing things," Michael said. "Important things. Time. People." "Us?" Zuri asked quietly. He nodded. "You." Cairo's eyes narrowed. "Why did Mom use to clean your office if you know her?" Michael glanced at Raven, who gave him a small nod. "Because I didn't know," he said simply. "I didn't know about you two. And when I left, your mom and I lost touch." "For 10 years?" Cairo pressed, skeptical. "Sometimes," Michael said carefully, "adults make mistakes, big ones. I made a mistake by not looking for your mom when I came back. I made a mistake by being too busy to notice what was right in front of me." "Are we a mistake?" Zuri asked, her voice small. "No," Michael said firmly. "Never. You are the best things I never knew I had." She smiled at that, leaning into his side. Cairo still watched him, guarded but curious. "Are you going to live here now?" he asked. "No," Michael said. "This is your home with your mom. But I'd like to visit, if that's okay with you." Cairo nodded slowly. "I guess. And Mom won't have to clean at night anymore?" Zuri asked. "Not unless she wants to," Michael said. "I don't," Raven said from the doorway. "But I'll find something else. I need to work." "Of course," Michael said. "Whatever you want. My lawyer has some options for you." "Options that don't involve mops?" she asked, a small smile touching her lips. "Options that involve your brain, not your back," he said. Later, after the twins had gone to bed in their new room with their new beds, Raven and Michael sat at the kitchen table. "Thank you," she said, "for this place, for talking to them. It's the least I could do," he said. "It's a start," she corrected. He nodded. "A start? What happens next?" she asked. "That depends on you," he said. "On them. I'll be here, however you want me to be. But I won't push." She studied him. "You've changed," she said. "Not enough," he replied. "Not yet, but I'm trying." She nodded. "I see that." As he stood to leave, she walked him to the door. "Michael," she said, "this doesn't fix everything. I know. And I'm not ready for anything beyond co-parenting. I know that too." But she added, "I'm glad they know you now." It was a small thing, a tiny step forward on a very long road. But sometimes, the smallest steps take the most courage. As Michael left the apartment, he felt lighter than he had in years. Not because he'd done enough, he hadn't. Not nearly, but because he'd finally started. He didn't realize then how precious that start would be, or how little time they would have to finish what they'd begun. Change didn't happen in one grand gesture. It came in little moments. A ride to school because the bus was late. A pizza night where he let Zuri choose toppings and pretended to like olives. Sitting on bleachers at Cairo's game, shouting himself hoarse as the boy scored his first basket and looked up to make sure Michael had seen. "You're loud," Cairo said afterward, grinning. "Somebody has to be," Michael replied. Sometimes, late at night, after the twins were in bed, he and Raven would sit at the small kitchen table in the new apartment. The place still smelled faintly of paint and cleaner. Boxes lined the hallway, half unpacked. "How did you do it?" he asked once, when the quiet felt safe enough. "On a cleaner's paycheck. With 2 kids." She traced a pattern in a ring of spilled tea. "I did whatever I had to," she said. "I cleaned other offices, houses, took side jobs, sold things, went without. I learned how to stretch $1 into a week. I smiled at people when I wanted to scream, because smiling kept the job." He watched her. "You shouldn't have had to do it alone," he said. She shrugged, but her eyes betrayed the truth. "I learned something," she said. "No one's coming. You stop waiting, you survive better. I'm here now," he said. She met his eyes. "I know," she said. "That's what scares me." One evening, he walked into the kitchen to find her gripping the counter, breath shallow. "Raven?" he said. She closed her eyes, jaw tight. "It's fine," she said. "It passes." He didn't believe her. He saw the way her hand trembled when she reached for a glass, the gray tinge around her lips. "Sit," he said. "Now." "That's not a request." She slid into a chair, more because she had to, than from obedience. "What's wrong?" he asked. "And don't say nothing." She took a slow, careful breath. "The doctor says my heart's tired," she admitted. "Too many years of stress and not enough rest. Night shifts, long hours, bad food, fear, fear." It made sense. Fear wears you out more than any job. "What exactly did they say?" he pressed. She looked away. "Cardiomyopathy. My heart doesn't pump right anymore. Sometimes it skips, sometimes it races." She tapped her chest, like it's confused about its job. "How long have you known?" "About a year," she said. "It got worse these past few months." "A year?" he repeated. "You've been cleaning floors with a heart condition for a year?" "What was I supposed to do?" she asked. "Stop working? Let my kids starve?" He felt sick. "There are treatments, right?" "There's a procedure," she said. "A surgery. They say it could help, could give me more time." Or, she didn't finish. "Or," he pressed. "Or it could not," she said. "It's risky, expensive, definitely not motel budget friendly." "You didn't tell me," he said. "What was I supposed to say?" she replied. "Hey, the man who just found out he's 10 years late to fatherhood, want to pay to fix the heart that broke because of the life his father forced on me?" "Yes," he said. She looked at him sharply. "Yes," he repeated. "I would have wanted to know. I still do," she sighed. "I didn't want you helping me just because you felt guilty," she said. "I've lived my whole life with men doing things for their own conscience instead of for me. I wasn't going to add you to the list." He took her hand gently. "This isn't about my conscience," he said. "It's about Zuri and Cairo not losing their mother because I stayed comfortable. It's about not letting the woman who carried my children and this entire situation on her back fall apart alone." Her throat worked. "Why do you always know exactly what to say now?" she asked, half annoyed, half touched. "Because I spent 10 years saying nothing," he replied. "I'm making up for it." She laughed softly. It faded quickly. "I'm scared," she admitted in a whisper. "I feel it sometimes, like my heart is a door that keeps slamming. One day, it might not open again." Has someone ever told you they were afraid, and suddenly, you felt afraid too? Not just for them, but for all the things you hadn't done yet? All the words you hadn't said? He squeezed her hand. "We're going to get you that surgery," he said. "The best doctors, the best hospital. No cutting corners. Not this time." She looked at him, eyes glossy. "What if it doesn't work?" she whispered. He opened his mouth to say it will. Stopped. He remembered her words to the twins. Don't lie. Don't make it pretty. Make it true. Then we'll deal with it, he said softly. Together. But doing nothing? That's not an option. She exhaled slowly. Okay, she said. We'll try. In the other room, the twins argued. Over a TV remote, their voices rising in normal, beautiful noise. Raven closed her eyes like she was memorizing the sound. Michael did the same. He didn't know it, but he'd replay that exact moment for the rest of his life. 2 days later, they sat in a specialist's office. Dr. Patel spoke in measured tones, hands folded on the desk, eyes moving between Raven and Michael. The procedure is called a myectomy, she explained. We'll remove part of the thickened heart muscle that's blocking blood flow. Success rate? Michael asked. With cases like Miss James, about 70%, the doctor said, but I have to be clear. Her condition has progressed significantly. The longer we wait, the higher the risk. And if we don't do it? Raven asked. Doctor. Patel's expression softened. Your heart will continue to weaken. Eventually, it won't be able to keep up with even basic functions. How long? Michael pressed. It's impossible to say exactly. Maybe a year, maybe less. A year, maybe less. The words dropped into the room like stones into a still pond. When can we schedule the surgery? Michael asked. We have an opening next week, Doctor. Patel said. Tuesday. That's so soon, Raven whispered. The sooner the better, the doctor replied gently. Michael touched Raven's arm. What do you think? She looked at him. Will you tell the twins? If something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong, he said automatically. She gave him a look. Michael, he nodded. I'll tell them, whatever they need to know. Then Tuesday, she said. Let's do it Tuesday. As they left the office, Raven stumbled slightly. Michael caught her elbow. I'm okay, she said quickly. But he'd seen the flash of pain cross her face, seen the way her hand went instinctively to her chest. We need to tell the kids, she said as they reached the car. Tonight, together. He nodded. Whatever you want. It's not about what I want, she said quietly. It's about what they need. They need to be prepared for whatever happens. That night, they sat the twins down in the living room. Zuri curled up next to Raven on the couch. Cairo perched on the arm, legs swinging. Mom's getting a special operation, Michael started. On her heart, next Tuesday. Like surgery? Cairo asked, eyes widening. Yes, Raven said. But it's going to help me feel better. Are you sick? Zuri asked, her small hand grabbing Raven's. My heart is tired, Raven said. It's been working too hard, for too long. The doctors are going to help it work better. Will it hurt? Zuri whispered. Raven met Michael's eyes. Don't lie. Don't make it pretty. Make it true. Yes, she said. But I'll have medicine to help with the pain. And after I heal, I'll be able to do more things with you. Like running at the park. Are you going to die? Cairo asked bluntly. The question hit the room like a slap. The doctors are going to do everything they can, Michael said. That's not an answer, Cairo said, eyes narrowing. I'm not planning on it, Raven said, reaching for his hand. But you should know that any big operation has risks. I want you both to be ready for anything. I don't want you to go, Zuri said, tears forming. I don't want to go either, baby, Raven said, pulling her close. I'm going to fight as hard as I can to stay right here with you. Promise? Zuri asked. Raven hesitated. I promise to try my very best. That night, after the twins were finally asleep, Michael found Raven at the kitchen table, writing on a notepad. What are you doing? He asked. Instructions, she said. For the twins. In case. Raven. They need to know things, she cut in. Important things. Zuri has nightmares if she sleeps with socks on. Cairo pretends he doesn't like hugs, But he does, just not in front of other kids. They both need to hear, "I love you," before they fall asleep. Every night, he sat down across from her. "You can tell them those things yourself," he said, after the surgery. She looked up, and for the first time since he'd known her, truly known her, he saw raw fear in her eyes. "If I don't make it," she whispered, "you have to be everything to them. Not just money, not just a name. Everything." "I will," he promised. "Swear it," she insisted. "Swear you won't let anyone take them. Not your father, not the system, no one." "I swear," he said, "on my life." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to writing. "Raven," he said softly. She looked up. "You're going to make it," he said. She gave him a small smile. "I hope so. But hope doesn't raise kids. Plans do." As he watched her write meticulously, carefully, mapping out the future she might not see, Michael realized something terrifying. Sometimes, second chances come too late. Hospitals always smell the same. Clean, but not the kind of clean Raven was used to creating. This was cold, sterile. The lights were too bright. The walls were too white. Raven sat on the edge of the pre-op bed in a thin gown, bare feet, swinging an inch above the floor. Her hair was tied back. An IV snaked from her hand up to a clear bag. Zuri sat pressed against her left side, fingers laced with her mother's. Cairo took the right, jaw clenched like he could protect her by sheer will. Michael stood at the foot of the bed and hated that he couldn't do anything. "This feels wrong," Raven murmured, looking around at the machines. "All this for me. For you," he said. "For them. For the years you're going to see that I almost missed." The surgeon came in, kind smile, practiced tone. He explained the procedure again. Risks, possibilities, promises he couldn't really make. "Do you have any questions?" he asked. Raven shook her head. After he left, the room felt smaller. "Mommy?" Zuri whispered. "Will it hurt?" "A little," Raven said honestly. "But not for long. And when I wake up, my heart will be stronger. I'll be able to chase you again when you leave your socks everywhere." Zuri tried to smile. Tears still slipped out. Cairo stared at the floor. "I don't like this," he muttered. "Can't they just give you, like, medicine instead?" "They tried," Raven said gently. "My heart needs more than medicine now. It needs a fix." She looked at Michael. "Stay with them," she said quietly. "No matter what happens, I will," he said. "Promise?" she pressed. "I promise," he replied. Have you ever felt the weight of a promise that might be harder to keep than you thought? A moment when someone hands you their most precious thing and trusts you not to break it? She held out her hand. He took it. "Michael," she said, If something goes wrong, don't lie to them. Don't say I just went to sleep. Tell them I fought. Tell them I chose this because I wanted more time with them. Don't make it pretty. Make it true." His throat tightened. "Nothing is going to go wrong," he insisted, even though he knew better than to bargain with fate out loud. She gave him a small, sad smile. "You always did like to wrestle the universe," she said. She hesitated, then reached up with her free hand and touched his cheek. "For what it's worth," she whispered, "I did love you. Back then, not the man you became. The boy with holes in his shoes who talked about changing things. I loved him. That's why it hurt so much when he didn't come back." He blinked hard. "If I'd known," he said, "I would have run to you." "I know," she replied. "That's the part I've forgiven." He squeezed her hand. "Do you still?" he started. But the words died in his throat. She looked at their hands. "I don't know how to love you now," she said honestly. "But I know I trust you with them. And that's something." The nurse appeared in the doorway. "It's time," she said softly. Raven leaned down and kissed Zuri's forehead. "I love you, my beautiful girl," she whispered. She turned to Cairo. "I love you, my brave boy." "Come back," he said, voice cracking. "You promised we'd go to the park this weekend." "I'll be there," she said. She didn't say if. They wheeled her toward the double doors. The twins tried to follow, but the nurse stopped them gently. This is as far as you can go, she said. Mommy, Zuri called. Raven twisted on the bed as much as the IV allowed, blew them a kiss. Michael stood behind them, a tall, helpless shadow. The doors swung shut. There was a soft click. The world on the other side kept moving. The world on this side held its breath. And that's where we leave it for now. How often do we realize too late the value of someone? How many times do we walk past people who matter without seeing them, only to desperately wish for more time when it's running out? In the waiting room, Zuri climbed onto Michael's lap, her small body heavy with worry. Is she scared? She asked. Probably, Michael said. But she's strong. She's the strongest person I know, Cairo said from the chair beside them. Stronger than anybody. Michael nodded. She is. Even stronger than you? Zuri asked. Especially. Stronger than me, Michael said. You're rich, though, Cairo said. That's not strength, Michael replied. That's just money. Cairo looked at him for a long moment. Then, what is strength? Michael thought about Raven. About 10 years of cleaning floors. About raising 2 children alone. About facing surgery with calm eyes and steady hands. Strength is keeping going when stopping would be easier, he said. It's doing the hard thing because it's the right thing. It's putting others before yourself. Your mom has done that every day since you were born. Zuri's fingers played with his watch, an expensive piece that probably cost more than Raven had made in a year of night shifts. Will the doctors fix her? She asked. Michael hesitated. He remembered Raven's words. Don't make it pretty. Make it true. They'll try their very best, he said. But you're rich, Cairo insisted. You can make them fix her, right? Pay them extra or something? The desperation in the boy's voice broke Michael's heart. I wish it worked that way, he said gently. But medicine doesn't always listen to money. Then what's the point of having it? Cairo asked, his voice cracking. To make the rest easier? Michael said. To give her the best chance. Zuri twisted on his lap to look at him. Are you our dad? She asked suddenly. The question hit him with the force of a physical blow. Cairo's head snapped up, eyes wide. Why would you ask that? Michael asked. Zuri shrugged. Mom looks at you, the way my friend's mom looks at her dad. And you look at us like you're afraid we'll disappear. Out of the mouths of children. Michael took a deep breath. Yes, he said. I am. Why weren't you there? Cairo demanded, standing up. All those years, in the motel, when she was tired, when we were hungry. Where were you? The accusation hung in the air. I didn't know, Michael said. I should have, but I didn't. And that's on me, not your mom. She tried to tell me, but what? Cairo pressed. But sometimes people keep important things from each other, Michael said. And by the time I found out, 10 years had passed. Are you sorry? Zuri asked. More than I can ever say, Michael replied. Cairo stood there, fists clenched at his sides, eyes bright with unshed tears. If she dies, he said, it's your fault. Cairo, Zuri protested. It is, the boy insisted. If he'd been there, she wouldn't have worked so hard. Her heart wouldn't be broken. She'd be okay. Michael didn't argue. The truth was, Cairo was probably right. I know, he said simply. Cairo hadn't expected agreement. He deflated slightly. I hate this, he muttered, dropping back into his chair. Me too, Michael said. A clock ticked on the wall. Minutes stretched into an hour into 2. Zuri fell asleep against Michael's chest, exhausted from worry. Cairo fought sleep, his eyes blinking slowly, then snapping open again. You can rest, Michael told him. I'll wake you when there's news. I'm not tired, Cairo insisted. But eventually, his head nodded forward, chin touching his chest. Michael sat there, 2 sleeping children leaning against him, and felt the weight of what he'd missed. 10 years of moments like this. 10 years of trust he hadn't earned. The double doors at the end of the hallway remained closed. He stared at them, willing them to open, willing the surgeon to appear with good news. But they stayed shut. And with each passing minute, the knot in his stomach grew tighter. What if she didn't make it? What if this was all the time they got? What if the twins lost their mother just as he'd found them? The questions circled like vultures. He tried to imagine a life without Raven in it. Tried to picture raising the twins alone. Tried to think of how he would keep the promise he'd made. He couldn't. Not because he wouldn't try, but because the picture was incomplete without her in it. 3 hours in, the doors finally opened. The surgeon walked through, mask pulled down around his neck. His face was grim. Michael gently shook the twins awake. "The doctor's here," he said. They blinked, disoriented, then focused on the surgeon approaching them. "Mr. Collins?" the doctor asked. Michael stood. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. "Yes." Zuri and Cairo watched, wide-eyed. "We did everything we could," the doctor began. "Time moves differently in hospital waiting rooms. It doesn't tick. It drags. The chairs were too hard. The lights too bright. A TV in the corner played some game show with fake laughter that grated against the quiet tension in the air. Zuri sat pressed into Michael's side, sketchbook open but untouched on her lap. Her pencil hovered over the page without landing. Every now and then she'd draw a single line, then stop. Cairo paced, back and forth, sneakers squeaking on the tile, hands stuffed deep in his hoodie pocket like if he let them hang by his sides, the fear would spill out through his quilt. Fingers. "How long is it supposed to take?" he snapped at one point, whirling toward Michael. "They've been in there forever." "Heart surgeries can take a while," Michael said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The doctor said it might be hours." "Yeah, well, he also said it was going to be okay," Cairo muttered. "Doctors lie all the time." He wasn't wrong. Michael didn't say that. He watched the double doors at the end of the hallway like they were going to answer for him. Nurses went in. Nurses came out. None of them came over. He thought of Raven on that bed, her hand in his, her voice asking him not to make it pretty if things went wrong. "Mom wouldn't want you to frown so hard," Zuri whispered suddenly. He looked down at her. She was staring at his face, studying the lines in his forehead like they were a puzzle she was trying to solve. "She says frowns make you old," Zuri said. Her voice wobbled on the present tense. She said you already look older than you are 'cause you carry too much." Michael swallowed. "She was right," he said quietly. He tried to relax his face. It didn't work. "She's gonna be okay," Zuri continued, more to herself than to him. God wouldn't. He wouldn't take her. Not after everything. Right? He hesitated. He wanted to say yes, to hand her certainty like a warm blanket. But Raven's voice echoed in his head. "Don't lie to them." "I don't know how God makes his choices," he said slowly. "I just know your mom is the bravest person I've ever met. And if anyone can fight their way back, it's her." Zuri nodded, lip trembling. "Then she will," she whispered. "Have you ever seen a child try to make sense of something too big for them to hold? To wrap their small hands around an idea as vast as loss?" Cairo stopped pacing. "What if she doesn't?" he asked. "What happens to us then?" The words cut straight through Michael. He'd been thinking of it too, of what he owed, of what he'd promised, of all the years he'd already missed. "If she doesn't," he said carefully, "then you still won't be alone. I'll be there, every day, not just in words, in real life. That's a promise I won't let myself break." Cairo looked at him like he wanted to believe him and didn't know how. "People say that," he said. "Then they change their mind." "Then let me prove I'm not people," Michael replied. The boy stared at him, searching for something in his face. "My friend Jason's dad left when his mom got cancer," he said. "He said it was too hard to watch. Said he couldn't handle it." Michael's chest tightened. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. Even if she dies? Especially then. An elderly couple across the waiting room watched them with sympathetic eyes. The woman leaned over and whispered something to her husband. He nodded. Zuri closed her sketchbook. I tried to draw something for when she wakes up, she said. But my hands won't work right. That's okay, Michael said. She knows you love her. But I want her to see it, Zuri insisted. She will, Michael said. He hoped it wasn't a lie. 3 hours crawled by. Cairo eventually collapsed into a chair, exhaustion overcoming his determination to stay alert. Zuri curled into Michael's side, her breath evening out in sleep. Michael stayed awake, watching the doors, waiting. A janitor pushed a mop across the floor, headphones in his ears, barely looking up. For a fleeting moment, Michael thought of Raven, of how many floors she had cleaned while people walked past her. Would he have noticed her? If he'd passed her in a hallway like this? If she hadn't been the mother of his children? If she had just been another woman in a uniform, making his world cleaner? He wanted to believe he would. He feared he wouldn't. The waiting room slowly emptied. A family got good news. They hugged, cried, left together. An older man received a quiet update from a doctor. His shoulders slumped. He walked out alone. Still no word about Raven. Michael carefully shifted Zuri so he could stand. His legs ached from sitting too long. He walked to the water fountain, filled a cup, sipped it slowly. A nurse passed by. Excuse me, he said. The heart surgery patient, Raven James. Is there any update? The nurse checked her clipboard. She's still in surgery. Dr. Patel will come speak with you when they're finished. Is it normal for it to take this long? She gave him a practiced smile. Every procedure is different. Try not to worry. But worry was all he could do. He returned to his seat, to the sleeping children who might be waiting for news that would shatter their world. What would he tell them if the worst happened? How could he possibly step into the space Raven would leave? Cairo stirred, blinking awake. Any news? He asked immediately. Not yet, Michael said. The boy nodded, rubbing his eyes. You know? He said, voice rough with sleep. She used to tell us about you. Michael stilled. What? Not by name, Cairo clarified. Just that our dad was someone who wanted to change things, make the world better. She said we got our stubborn from him. Michael's throat tightened. She could have told you I abandoned you, he said. It would have been true. She said you didn't know about us, Cairo replied. I didn't believe her. I thought she was just being nice. She was being honest, Michael said. I really didn't know. Would it have mattered? If you had. The question hung between them, sharp-edged and waiting. Yes, Michael said. It would have changed everything. Before Cairo could respond, the double doors at the end of the hallway opened. The surgeon stepped out. His shoulders said everything before his mouth did. Wake Zuri, Cairo said, suddenly alert. The doctor's coming. Michael gently shook the little girl. Zuri! Honey! The doctor's here! She blinked awake, disoriented, then focused on the surgeon approaching them. Mr. Collins? He asked. Michael stood. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Yes. Zuri and Cairo watched, wide-eyed. We did everything we could, the doctor began. The world shrank down to those words. No beeping machines, no flashing monitors, no whiteboard schedules or clipboards. Just that sentence. We did everything we could. He kept talking. There was something about complications, about her heart being weaker than they realized, about blood pressure dropping, about how some bodies carry too much for too long, and sometimes, even with all the best tools, the damage is too deep. Michael heard it and didn't hear it. All he really took in was the end. I'm very sorry, the doctor said. Raven didn't make it. For a second, everything went silent. The TV stopped. Footsteps stopped. Breathing stopped. Then sound crashed back in. No! The word tore out of Michael's throat. No! You said the odds were good. You said she was strong enough. She was, the surgeon replied gently. She fought hard, but sometimes the body has its own limits. Zuri's small hand slipped into Michael's, fingers icy. Is Mommy okay? She whispered, not looking at the doctor. She stared straight at Michael, like the truth had to pass through him first. It was the moment of the promise, the moment Raven had asked for. Don't make it pretty, make it true. He looked into the eyes of his daughter, and felt the weight of what he was about to take from her. Before he could speak, Cairo stepped forward. She's dead, isn't she? He asked the doctor directly, voice flat with forced control. The surgeon nodded once, and just like that, everything changed. You can feel bad news before you hear it. It hangs in the air, heavy, thick, like the oxygen got swapped for something too dense to breathe. The surgeon approached slowly, eyes soft in that way people use when they're about to break you in half and have no way around it. Mr. Collins? He asked. Michael stood. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Yes. Zuri and Cairo watched, wide-eyed. We did everything we could, the doctor began. The world shrank down to those words. No beeping machines, no flashing monitors, no whiteboard schedules or clipboards. Just that sentence. We did everything we could. He kept talking. There was something about complications, about her heart being weaker than they realized, about blood pressure dropping, about how some bodies carry too much for too long, and sometimes, even with all the best tools, the damage is too deep. Michael heard it and didn't hear it. All he really took in was the end. I'm very sorry, the doctor said. Raven didn't make it. For a second, everything went silent. The TV stopped. Footsteps stopped. Breathing stopped. Then sound crashed back in. No. The word tore out of Michael's throat. No. You said the odds were good. You said she was strong enough. She was, the surgeon replied gently. She fought hard. But sometimes, the body has its own limits. Zuri's small hand slipped into Michael's fingers. Icy. Is Mommy okay? She whispered, not looking at the doctor. She stared straight at Michael, like the truth had to pass through him first. He remembered what Raven had told him. Don't make it pretty. Make it true. He knelt so he was on their level. The doctor took a respectful step back. Your mom's heart was very sick, Michael said slowly. His voice shook, but he kept going. The doctors tried to fix it. They really did. She fought as hard as she could, but her body couldn't stay. Zuri blinked. Her eyes filled so fast, the tears spilled over instantly. What does that mean? She asked. She died, he said. The word was small. The impact wasn't. It hit the twins like a truck. Zuri let out a sound he never wanted to hear again. A broken, raw noise that didn't sound like a child at all. Her sketchbook slipped from her lap and hit the floor, pages flipping open to half-finished flowers. Cairo staggered back a step. You're lying, he said. You have to be. Lying. You're rich, you fix everything. You said you'd take care of it. Have you ever seen someone's world collapse in real time? Watched as the ground beneath them crumbled and there was nothing you could do to stop the fall? I wanted to, Michael choked out. If money could have saved her, it would have. I swear to you. But some things even money can't fix. Cairo's face crumpled. His fists balled at his sides. You were supposed to save her, he shouted. If you hadn't waited 10 years, if you'd been there sooner, if you'd seen us. I know, Michael said, tears streaming down his own face now. You're right. I should have been there. I should have seen her. I should have known. I can't change what I didn't do. I can only be here now. Cairo hit his shoulder with both fists. Being here now doesn't bring her back, he screamed. Michael didn't block the blows. He let them land. Because every hit was the truth. A nurse stepped forward, concerned, but Michael shook his head. This was Cairo's right to rage, to hurt, to make someone feel a fraction of his pain. Finally, Cairo's strength gave out. He collapsed into Michael's chest, sobs racking his small body. Zuri crawled into the space beside them, grabbing at Michael's jacket like it was the last solid thing in the room. He wrapped his arms around them both. Patients and families filed past. Nurses pretended not to stare. Somewhere, an announcement echoed overhead about visiting hours. Michael pressed his forehead to the top of Zuri's head. "I couldn't save her," he whispered, voice raw, "but I will not fail you too." He wasn't sure if he was promising them, Raven, or himself. Maybe all three. The next few hours blurred together. Forms to sign, decisions to make, calls to place. The cold, administrative aftermath of death that feels like an insult to grief. Cremation or burial? Which funeral home? What kind of service? Michael answered mechanically. Made choices. Signed papers. The twins sat huddled together on a bench, Cairo's arm around Zuri, her face buried in his shoulder. When the hospital social worker approached with questions about guardianship, Michael's mind cleared instantly. "I'm their father," he said. "I have all necessary documentation." He didn't. Not yet. But he would. No system, no court, no bureaucracy would separate him from these children. Not now. Not ever. "I'll need to see," the social worker began. "You'll have everything tomorrow," Michael cut her off. "Tonight, they're coming home with me." Her expression softened slightly. "Of course. I just need to follow procedure." "I understand," he said. "But they've lost enough today." Later, in the car, silence hung heavy between them. Zuri's sobs had quieted to hiccups. Cairo stared out the window, face blank. Tears dried on his cheeks. "Where are we going?" Zuri finally asked, voice small. "Home," Michael said. "Your apartment." "It's not home without Mom," Cairo muttered. Michael's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I know. She won't be there," Zuri said, as if trying to make sense of it. "Ever again." "No," Michael said. "She won't." "But her stuff will be," Cairo said. "Her clothes, her shoes, her coffee mug with the chip in it." Michael swallowed hard. The mundane leftovers of a life. The things that stay when the person goes. "Yes," he said. "I don't want to see it," Cairo said. "I don't want to be there without her." Michael pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face them. "Listen to me," he said. "Both of you. This is the worst day. And tomorrow won't be much better. And the days after that will hurt too. I won't lie to you about that. But we will get through this. Together." "How?" Zuri asked. "How do we do that?" "1 minute at a time," Michael said. "And when that's too hard, 1 breath at a time." Cairo looked at him, really looked at him, for what felt like the first time. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You didn't care before. You didn't even know us." "I care now," Michael said simply. "And I know you now. And I promise you, I'm not going anywhere." "People make promises all the time," Cairo said. "Mom promised she'd come home." The words cut deep. "She wanted to," Michael said. "More than anything. But she didn't," Cairo said. "So how do I know you will?" It was a fair question. The fairest question anyone had ever asked him. "You don't," Michael admitted. "Not yet. But I'm going to show you every day until you do." They drove the rest of the way in silence. At the apartment, Michael unlocked the door with trembling hands. Inside, everything looked exactly the same as when they'd left that morning. Breakfast dishes in the sink. Zuri's school backpack by the door. Raven's sweater draped over a kitchen chair, as if she might walk in any minute. But she wouldn't. She never would again. Zuri walked to the sweater, picked it up, and buried her face in it. "It smells like her," she whispered. Cairo stood in the doorway, refusing to step inside. "I can't," he said. "I can't do this." Michael crouched in front of him. "We can go somewhere else tonight, if you want. A hotel. My place." "I don't want to go somewhere else," Cairo said, voice cracking. "I want things to go back to how they were." I want my mom. I know, Michael said. I know. She was supposed to come home, Cairo repeated, tears starting again. She promised. Michael pulled him close. The boy resisted for a moment, then collapsed against him. What happens now? Zuri asked, from inside the apartment, still clutching the sweater. Michael looked at her over Cairo's shoulder. Now we learn how to live with the hardest truth, he said. And we do it together. Because that's what Raven would have wanted. And that's what he had promised. And for once in his life, Michael Collins was going to keep his word no matter what it cost him. They let them see her. Not right away. There were papers, protocols, words like post-op and preparation thrown around. But eventually, a nurse with kind eyes led them down a quiet hallway to a small room where time felt different. Raven lay on a narrow bed, a thin sheet pulled up to her chest. Her hair was smoothed back. There were no machines now, no tubes, no beeping, just stillness. Her face looked softer than Michael had ever seen it. No tightness between her brows, no lines on her forehead from worry. If he didn't know better, he would have thought she was sleeping. But he did know better. Mommy? Zuri whispered, stepping forward slowly. Her voice cracked on the second syllable. She reached the side of the bed and froze, like crossing those last few inches might break something she couldn't fix. Cairo didn't move at first. He stayed near the door, back against the wall. Fists clenched so hard his knuckles went white. Michael stood in the middle, not sure where he belonged, not sure he had the right to be closer to her than they were. Can I touch her? Zuri asked the nurse. The nurse nodded. Yes, baby, you can. Zuri's hand shook as she reached out and laid her fingers on her mother's arm. She's cold, she whispered, flinching slightly. Have you ever watched someone you love touch death for the first time? Seen the moment they understand that warmth doesn't last? That bodies become something else when the spirit leaves? Michael's heart twisted. You can talk to her, the nurse said softly. She can't answer, but some people say they can still hear. Zuri swallowed. Mommy, she said, leaning closer. You said you'd come back. You said we'd go to the park. Remember? We were gonna have a picnic and you were gonna actually sit instead of cleaning up everything. Tears dripped off her chin and landed on the sheet. You lied, she said, a flash of anger breaking through the grief. You weren't supposed to lie. Her anger lasted only a second before it melted back into sobs. I'm sorry, she hiccuped. I know you didn't want to. I know you tried. I know your heart hurt. I miss you already. What am I supposed to do when I draw something and you're not there to say it's good? Behind her, Cairo took a ragged breath. He pushed himself off the wall and approached the bed like it was a cliff edge. He didn't touch her at first. He stared at her face. Mom, he said finally, you look peaceful. I guess that's good. You were tired. He scrubbed at his eyes with the back of his hand. They say I gotta be the man now, he muttered. People always say that when dads aren't around. You're the man of the house. You said I just had to be a kid. But now I don't know what I am. He clenched his jaw. I'm mad, he admitted. At you? At him. He jerked his chin at Michael without looking. At God. At your heart for quitting. At mine for hurting. But I love you more than I'm mad. I just wanted more time. His voice broke on the last word. He reached out and laid his hand on her ankle, almost shyly, like he was afraid of disturbing her. Michael watched them. His chest felt like someone had wrapped a fist around his ribs and was squeezing. He stepped closer, but stopped at the foot of the bed. He wanted to touch her, to apologize, to rewind. Instead, his knees buckled. He sank down, both hands gripping the end of the mattress. His forehead pressed to the white sheet. For the second time in days, Michael Collins, billionaire, found himself kneeling because of this woman. Not in a polished hallway, not in a glass office, but in a small hospital room, at the bed of the woman who had cleaned his life from the shadows while he stood in the spotlight. I'm sorry, he whispered, words muffled by fabric. I'm so sorry, Raven. I was late. I should have been there. I should have fought him. I should have. I don't have enough sorry in me to cover it. How many times do we realize too late who truly matters? How often do we look past the people who keep our lives running, only to understand their value when they're gone? No one answered. Somewhere, a machine beeped in another room. Here, there was only stillness. Zuri reached down and laid a hand on his head, the way Raven sometimes had when comforting her. It's okay to cry, she whispered. He did. And in that strange, broken moment, it was the 10-year-old girl comforting the man who'd built an empire. After a while, minutes or hours, he couldn't tell. Michael raised his head. Zuri still stood beside him, her small hand now in his. Cairo had moved to the head of the bed. He was whispering something to Raven, too quiet for anyone else to hear. His private goodbye. The nurse stepped in. I'm so sorry, she said gently. But we need to. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. They needed to take Raven away. Just a little longer, Michael said. Please. The nurse nodded and backed out again. I don't want to leave her, Zuri said. She doesn't like being alone in strange places. Michael's throat tightened. I know. What happens to her now? Cairo asked, finally turning to look at Michael. Whatever you both want, Michael said. It's your choice. I want her to come home, Zuri said immediately. She can't, baby, Michael said softly. I know that, Zuri replied, surprising him with her directness. I mean her ashes. When she couldn't finish. We can bring her home, Michael agreed. If that's what you want. Cairo nodded. She'd like that better than some cemetery. She never liked fancy places. Michael thought of his penthouse, of the cold marble and glass, of how uncomfortable Raven had always seemed there, even at the end. You're right, he said. She belonged where people loved her. She loved you too, you know, Zuri said suddenly. She told us once. Michael looked up, startled. What? When we asked about our dad, Zuri explained. She said she loved him once, that he was going to change the world. She paused, but she said the world changed him. Instead, the words hit him like a physical blow, because they were true. The boy with holes in his shoes and big dreams had turned into a man who walked past the mother of his children for 10 years without seeing her. The nurse returned, her face apologetic. It's time, she said. Zuri pressed her lips to Raven's cheek one last time. Bye, Mommy, she whispered. I'll take care of Cairo and Michael too. Cairo squeezed his mother's hand, then turned away quickly. Michael stood. He looked down at Raven, really looked at her. At the woman who had cleaned floors while raising his children. At the woman who had loved the boy he used to be and watched him become someone else. At the woman he'd never have the chance to know again. Thank you, he whispered. For them. For keeping your heart open when mine was closed. As they walked out, Michael felt the weight of what was ahead. Funeral arrangements. Legal paperwork. A lifetime of parenthood he was unprepared for. But more than that, he felt the weight of what was behind. 10 years of blindness. 10 years of chance encounters that could have changed everything. If only he'd been looking. 10 years he couldn't get back, no matter how much money he had. In the hallway, Cairo stopped suddenly. What do I call you now? He asked Michael, his voice rough with grief, but clearer than before. Michael hesitated. Whatever feels right to you. Cairo nodded. Okay. Okay what? Michael asked. Just okay, Cairo said. I'm not ready for anything else. Fair enough. As they walked toward the elevator, Zuri slipped her hand into Michael's. She's watching us, she said with quiet certainty. I think so too, Michael replied. Cairo didn't take his hand, but he walked beside him, shoulders squared like he was bracing against a storm. And in a way, they all were. Because the real storm wasn't the death itself, it was the life that came after. The life where Michael Collins, CEO, billionaire, man who had everything, would have to become someone new. Someone worthy of the children Raven had left behind. Someone worthy of her forgiveness, even if she wasn't there to give it. The day of the funeral was gray. Not dramatic storm clouds, not golden sunlight, just a flat, heavy sky that matched the mood of the people gathered around a simple wooden casket. They couldn't afford anything elaborate. Michael could have. He offered. Raven's sister, someone he hadn't even known existed until that week, shook her head. She wouldn't want a show, she said. She'd want the money to go to the kids, and to someone who needs it more than a fancy box. So the casket was plain. The flowers were simple. But the people? The people were many. Cleaning staff lined the back row, uniforms pressed, eyes red. Office workers he barely recognized stood beside them, whispering to each other. A teacher from the twins' school dabbed her eyes with a tissue. The motel manager had even come, hat in hand, looking strangely small without his usual bluster. Michael sat in the front row, Zuri and Cairo on either side. He could feel the looks. Who is he to her? What's the billionaire doing here? Didn't she just clean his office? He didn't care. If anything, he welcomed the questions. Maybe they'd make people look at their own invisible workers differently. Have you ever realized that the people who keep our world running are often the ones we see the least? The ones whose names we don't bother to learn? The pastor spoke about strength, about mothers, about faith that holds even when bodies don't. Michael only half heard him. He was too focused on the photo propped beside the casket. Raven, in a rare moment without uniform, hair loose, a small smile on her face as she looked at something off camera. Probably the twins. There was a mic on a stand beside the pastor. Anyone who would like to share a memory is welcome, the pastor said. There was an awkward pause. Michael thought of standing, thought of saying, I should have known her sooner. His legs twitched. Before he could move, Zuri slipped her hand from his and stood up. Her knees shook a little as she walked to the front. She climbed onto the small wooden step someone had set there for her and gripped the podium. The mic squeaked. She flinched, then took a deep breath. My mom was a cleaner, she began. Her voice was quiet but clear. Some people think that means she was small, she continued. Like her job made her less important. Like she was just the person who picked up after the real people went home. She shook her head. But my mom was the biggest person I knew, Zuri said. She didn't just clean offices, she cleaned hearts. She made things better even when she had nothing. When we were scared, she made us feel safe. When we were hungry, she made us feel full, even if she didn't eat. She glanced at the casket, then at Michael. Sometimes people walked past her like she was invisible, she said. Like the trash cans and the desks mattered more than the person who touched them. But God saw her. We saw her. And now, mister. Michael sees her too. A murmur went through the crowd. Michael felt it settle over him like a spotlight he hadn't asked for. She was tired, Zuri continued, voice wobbling. Her heart hurt. She didn't tell everyone because she didn't want them to worry. She just kept working. For us. She wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. I wish she didn't have to be so strong, she whispered. I wish the world was kinder. I wish people had seen her sooner. But I'm happy she's not hurting anymore. I'm sad for me. I'm sad for my brother. But I'm happy for her heart. She stepped down. On her way back to her seat, she stopped by Michael and, without thinking, put her small hand on his shoulder. Your turn now, she said, barely audible. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His throat had closed. His mind was blank. What could he possibly say that wouldn't sound hollow? What words could make up for 10 years of blindness? He'd prepared a speech, had practiced it, had planned to tell these people about the Raven he'd only just begun to know again. But now, faced with her coffin and her children and her community, he couldn't speak. So he just shook his head. Zuri squeezed his shoulder once, then returned to her seat. After the service, people filed past the twins, offering condolences, sharing memories. Your mom always asked about my son in college, one woman from the cleaning staff said. Remembered his name and everything. She gave me her umbrella once, a young security guard added. Said she lived closer to the bus stop than I did. She made the best birthday cupcakes for our class, a small boy told Cairo. With the sprinkles inside too, not just on top. Small kindnesses, tiny moments of seeing others, the invisible threads that had made up Raven's life. Michael stood back, letting the twins receive these gifts of memory. A hand touched his arm. He turned to find an older woman in a cleaning uniform. She used to talk about you, she said. He blinked. What? Not by name, the woman clarified. Just, there was someone once. Someone important. The twins' father. She never said who, but sometimes, late at night, she'd mention him. Say he was going to change the world someday. Michael swallowed hard. Did she hate me? He asked. The woman considered this. I don't think so. She was disappointed. But hate takes energy, and she needed all hers for those kids. At the cemetery, rain started to fall as they lowered the casket. Zuri clutched a white rose, refusing to throw it in. I want to keep it, she said. To remember. Cairo stood rigid, shoulders squared, jaw tight, not crying anymore, just watching. Michael tried to imagine what Raven would want him to do in this moment, how she would comfort them, what she would say, but he wasn't Raven. He was just a man who had woken up too late to the most important role of his life. As the mourners dispersed, heading to cars and buses, Michael felt a presence at his elbow. It was Raven's sister, Maya. You're really their father? She asked. No accusation in her voice, just curiosity. He nodded. Yes, she never told me that, Maya said, just that he wasn't in the picture. I didn't know, Michael said, until recently. Maya studied him. And now? Now I'm trying to be what they need, he said. She nodded slowly. Good. They're going to need someone strong. I don't know if I'm strong enough, he admitted. Maya smiled faintly. Nobody ever is. You just do it anyway. As they walked back to the cars, the twins trailing behind them, Maya said, She forgave you, you know. Michael stopped. What? About a year ago. We were talking late one night. She said, I used to be so angry at him, but now I'm just tired. And I think maybe he never knew. Maybe that's better. The words hit Michael like a physical blow. She had forgiven him before he'd even known he needed forgiveness. Thank you for telling me that, he said. Maya shrugged. She'd want you to know. Raven never held on to things. It made her back hurt, she said. Practical, even in forgiveness. That sounded like her. As dirt thudded onto wood later, each sound hammering home a truth. The past was unchangeable. The future? That, at least, was still partly in his hands. In the car, driving home, Zuri fell asleep, exhausted from grief. Cairo stared out the window. Mr. Michael? He said suddenly. Yes? Mom used to do this thing, he said. When we were sad, she'd tell us to say one good thing about the day, even on the worst days, even when there was nothing good. She said it helped us remember that bad things end. Michael's throat tightened. That sounds like her. One good thing today is. Cairo paused. All those people came. For her. They remembered her. Yes, Michael said. They did. What's your one good thing? Cairo asked. Michael thought about it. That I get to take you both home, he said finally. That she trusted me with that. Cairo nodded, then fell silent again. Home. Such a simple word. Such a complicated promise. The apartment would be empty now. Different. And Michael would have to learn how to fill the space Raven had left. Not replace her. That was impossible. But somehow, create something new from the ashes of what should have been. For these children, who deserved so much more than a father who'd just learned their names. For Raven, who had forgiven him before he'd even had the chance to apologize. And for himself, the man he needed to become, if he was going to honor both. Grief is loud at funerals. Flowers, speeches, hugs, crying. Then everyone goes home, and grief gets quiet. Too quiet. The first night after the funeral, the apartment felt wrong. Too big for 3 people. Too small for the absence. Zuri sat at the kitchen table, Raven's mug in front of her, filled with water instead of coffee. She stirred it with a spoon as if the drink might change if she tried hard enough. Cairo stood by the window, forehead pressed to the glass, watching cars pass in the dark. Michael hovered, not sure where to be, not sure what to say. Are we supposed to do something? Zuri asked finally. Like, what? Michael said gently. I don't know, she said. Light a candle? Or talk to her? Or pretend everything's normal? Nothing about this is normal, Cairo muttered. He was right. They ate in silence. Leftovers Raven had made earlier that week. Michael couldn't bring himself to throw them away. It felt like erasing her. Have you ever eaten food made by someone who's gone? Tasted the memory of their hands, their care, their presence in each bite? After dinner, he washed the dishes. He'd never washed so many dishes in his life. Raven's sponge sat by the sink. He picked it up and froze. Her hand had been here. Her fingers had squeezed this same sponge over and over while she thought about bills and bus routes. And 2 sleeping kids. He had meetings to prep for, contracts to sign, messages from board members asking if he was emotionally stable enough to continue at full capacity. He ignored them. When the twins brushed their teeth and shuffled into the bedroom they now shared, Cairo stopped in the doorway. You're gonna leave when we go to sleep, aren't you? He said without turning around. No, Michael said. You always leave, Cairo replied. Grown-ups leave. They say, I'll be right back. And then life happens and they don't come back. I'll be right here, Michael said. On the couch, all night. If you wake up, you'll see me. Promise? Zuri asked from behind him. Promise, he said. They disappeared into the room. He heard them whispering for a long time. He lay down on the couch. The cushions were too short for his height. His neck hurt. His back ached. He didn't move. Every time he felt his eyes drifting shut, he'd jolt awake, listening. Once, around 2 a.m., he heard Zuri call out, Mommy! He was on his feet before he knew it. He pushed the bedroom door open gently. Zuri sat up, hair wild, face wet. Cairo's arm was flung over her like he'd tried to hold her in sleep. It was just a dream, she whispered. She was here. I know, Michael said softly. I dream about her too. He sat beside the bed. Can you stay? She asked. I'm right here, he said. She leaned into his side. Cairo opened one eye. If you move, I'll know, he muttered. I'm not going anywhere, Michael replied. He meant it. And for the first time, he understood something terrifying. Love wasn't the grand gestures. It was this. The choice, over and over, to stay when no one would blame you for walking away. Morning came too soon. Michael woke with a start, disoriented. He was still in the twins' room, sitting on the floor, his back against the wall. His neck screamed in protest as he straightened. The twins were gone. Panic surged through him until he heard sounds from the kitchen. He found them there. Cairo on a step stool, trying to work the coffee maker. Zuri setting the table. We're making breakfast, she announced. Like Mom did, Cairo added. Michael nodded, unsure if he should help or step back. Can I do anything? He asked. You can sit, Zuri directed. Mom always sat while we helped. He sat. The coffee Cairo made was too strong. The toast Zuri prepared was barely browned on one side, black on the other. Perfect, Michael said, and ate every bite. After breakfast, the question hung in the air. What now? No school today, no work, no routine to follow. Just 3 people circling an absence. I need to get some things from my place, Michael said finally. Clothes. My laptop. Cairo's head snapped up. We're coming with you. It wasn't a question. Of course, Michael said. The drive to his penthouse was quiet. As they rode up in the private elevator, Zuri pressed herself against Michael's leg. It's so tall, she whispered. Do clouds hit the windows? Sometimes, he said, during storms. The doors opened directly into his apartment. Both twins froze. The space stretched before them, all gleaming surfaces and perfect angles. Floor to ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, an uncluttered life. You live here? Cairo asked, incredulous. I sleep here, Michael corrected. I'm not sure I live anywhere. Zuri stepped cautiously into the living room, hand trailing over an expensive leather couch. Where are your things? She asked. What things? Michael replied. You know, pictures, toys, stuff. He looked around. There were no photos, no mementos, no evidence of a life beyond work. I don't have many things, he admitted. Cairo opened the refrigerator. It's all fancy, he said, examining containers of prepared meals. Don't you ever just eat, like, cereal? Michael couldn't remember the last time he'd bought cereal. We'll get some, he promised. As he packed a bag, clothes, toiletries, laptop, he found the twins in his bedroom, examining his space with the unfiltered curiosity of children. Is this your mom? Zuri asked, picking up the one framed photo in the room. Yes, Michael said. Where's your dad? Not in the picture, Michael said. It was true in more ways than one. Like us, Cairo said. Not anymore, Michael replied. The drive back to their apartment home, he corrected himself mentally, was quieter still. When they arrived, a neighbor was leaving a casserole dish by their door. I'm so sorry for your loss, she said, eyes shifting curiously between Michael and the twins. Thank you, Michael said. Inside, the apartment felt different in daylight, less like a raw wound, more like a fading bruise. Raven's presence was everywhere. Her jacket on the hook, her handwriting on the calendar, her magnets on the fridge, but so was her absence. The silence where her voice should be, the empty space at the table, the stillness in the air that used to move with her. Zuri went to the counter where a stack of mail sat unopened. Mom always does the mail after lunch, she said, then caught herself. Did. She did the mail. The present tense. The constant correction. The new language of loss. They were all learning to speak. Do you want to help me with it? Michael asked. She nodded. They sat at the table, sorting envelopes. Bills in one pile, junk in another. This one's from the hospital, Zuri said, holding up an envelope. Michael took it gently. I'll handle that one. Is it a lot of money? She asked. Don't worry about that, he said. Mom always worried about money, Cairo said from the doorway. That's not your job anymore, Michael said. Either of you. Then whose job is it? Cairo challenged. Mine, Michael said simply. Later, as the afternoon stretched into evening, Michael's phone buzzed repeatedly. Messages from the office, emails, calls he was ignoring. Don't you have to work? Cairo asked, watching him silence the phone again. Not today, Michael said. But tomorrow? Michael thought about it. I'll work from here, he said. For now. For how long? Cairo pressed. The boy's eyes were steady, demanding truth. No platitudes, no easy promises. For as long as you need me to, Michael said. What if that's forever? Zuri asked quietly. Michael looked at her, this small girl with Raven's eyes and his stubborn chin, at Cairo, watching him with cautious hope. Then it's forever, he said. He didn't know how he would make it work, how he would balance the company and these children, how he would become what they needed, but he knew he would try. That night, after they'd finally fallen asleep, Zuri with Raven's sweater, Cairo with his fists still clenched, Michael sat at the kitchen table and pulled out his phone. He had decisions to make, changes to implement, a life to rearrange. But first, he had a promise to keep. He dialed his assistant. I need you to clear my schedule, he said, for the next month. Anything that can't be postponed, I'll handle remotely. A month? she repeated, shocked. Sir? The board won't. The board works for me, Michael cut in, not the other way around. And right now, I have more important things than quarterly projections. May I ask what's happened? She asked. He looked toward the bedroom where the twins slept. I became a father, he said. And in the quiet that followed those words, something shifted inside him. A space that had been empty for too long. A space that could never be filled with money, or power, or success. A space that was finally opening to something real. 3 months after Raven's funeral, a new plaque appeared in the lobby of Collins Global. People stopped to stare at it on their way in. Not because it was flashy, it wasn't. Just brushed metal, clean font, mounted at eye level. It read, Raven James, Center for Worker Dignity and Support, underneath. In smaller letters, for the ones the world walks past. The whispered questions began immediately. Who was she? Is that the cleaner who died? Why name a center after her? Michael knew they'd ask. He wanted them to. He stood beside the plaque that morning, flanked by a few reporters who'd caught wind of some new CSR initiative, and his PR team, who kept reminding him to say strategic things. Today isn't about optics, he said when they'd suggested a big speech. Then, what is it about? One had asked, exasperated. He looked up at the ceiling, at the vents, at the lights, all the things Raven had probably cleaned at some point. It's about finally seeing the person who held this place together, while we pretended the marble did all the work, he replied. Have you ever noticed how the most important people in any building are often the ones with the least recognition? The ones who make everything possible but remain invisible? The center wasn't a separate building. He didn't need more glass towers. It was a department. Quietly, powerful. It handled things HR never did. Before childcare stipends, emergency funds for workers in crisis, free counseling, legal support for staff in abusive situations, paid sick leave, health insurance for every cleaner, server, and security guard that stepped foot in his buildings. The first time he presented the plan to the board, there was an uproar. This is expensive, one said. You're cutting into our profits. Short term, Michael replied. Long term, you're investing in people who keep the company running. Since when do you care about cleaners? Another muttered. Since I found out I'd been walking past the mother of my children for 10 years, he said flatly. The room went dead silent. He let the truth sit there. He didn't go into detail. He didn't need to. Some stories don't have to be spelled out to be understood. The board approved the plan. Some out of guilt, some out of fear, some because they saw the PR angle and wrapped their greed in compassion. He didn't care why. He cared that cleaners who got sick didn't have to choose between medicine and rent. That night, he walked the halls with a new kind of awareness. He stopped to talk to the janitors, asked their names, remembered them. Sir, is everything okay? One older woman asked, clutching her mop. No, he said, but I'm trying to make it better. She nodded like she understood. Outside, a reporter cornered him. Some people are saying this is about your image, she said. There are rumors about a personal connection to this Raven woman. Is that true? He thought about Zuri's speech, about Raven's hands, about 10 years of trash bags and quiet resilience. Yes, he said. It's personal. Care to elaborate? She asked, leaning forward. No, he replied. Just write this down. Your company isn't built on your ideas. It's built on the people who clean your trash when you go home. If you don't know their names, maybe you're not as successful as you think. The quote went viral. Not for his sake, for hers. At home that evening, and he'd started thinking of the apartment as home. Now he found Zuri at the kitchen table, hunched over a sheet of paper. What are you drawing? He asked. She held it up. A woman with a mop, a glowing circle around her head. It's Mom, she said. For the center. It's perfect, Michael said. Can I hang it there? She nodded, pleased. Cairo came in from his room. Did you tell them? He asked. Tell who what? Michael asked. The board people. That Mom was our mom. That you're our dad. Michael hesitated. Not directly, but they understood. Are you ashamed? Cairo asked bluntly. Of you? Never. Of myself? Every day. Cairo nodded, satisfied with the honesty. The following week, the center opened officially. A small ribbon cutting. No fanfare. Just a space where workers could come with their needs and find help instead of indifference. The first person through the door was a dishwasher from the cafeteria. Her baby was sick. She couldn't afford the medicine. She left with a check and an appointment for the company's doctor. The second was a maintenance man who needed emergency dental surgery. The third was a security guard whose landlord had doubled his rent. By week's end, the center had helped 37 people. People who had been invisible before. People like Raven. Does it make you feel better? Cairo asked one night as they ate dinner. Helping them? It's not about me feeling better, Michael said. It's about them being seen. But does it? Cairo pressed. Michael considered the question. No, he said finally. It doesn't fix what I didn't do, but it might prevent someone else from having to clean floors with a failing heart. Zuri looked up from her plate. Mom would like it, she said with certainty. I hope so, Michael replied. His phone buzzed with an email from his father. He'd been conspicuously silent since the funeral, since the announcement, since Michael had publicly claimed his children. The email was short. This little charity project is cutting into our Q3 profits. The board is restless. Remember who you represent. Michael deleted it without replying. He represented 2 children eating spaghetti at his table. He represented a woman who had died before he could truly make things right. He represented himself, not the man his father wanted him to be, but the man he needed to become. The center grew. Other companies started asking questions. How did it work? What did it cost? Could they implement something similar? Michael shared the model freely. No patents, no proprietary systems. Just a template for seeing the invisible. A month after the opening, he took the twins to visit. They walked through the doors, shy at first, then curious as they saw the space their mother's name had created. A woman at the front desk smiled at them. Hello, she said. You must be Zuri and Cairo. They nodded, surprised to be recognized. Your mom helped me once, the woman explained. Gave me bus fare when I was short. Said not to worry about paying her back. Zuri beamed. She did that a lot. I know, the woman said. That's why we're here. As they toured the center, Michael watched the twins stand a little taller. Saw them realize their mother hadn't just been a cleaner. She'd been someone who mattered, who was remembered. On the wall hung a large framed photo of Raven, the same one from the funeral. Beside it, in a matching frame, was Zuri's drawing. You hung it, she whispered. Of course, Michael said. It's the best picture of her I've ever seen. That night on the news, a reporter asked him about the center, about the cost, about the impact on the bottom line. Some critics say, this is just guilt money, she said. What do you say to that? Michael looked directly into the camera. I say they're right, he replied. It is guilt money. It's money that should have been spent years ago. It's the very least we owe to the people who make our success possible, the ones we've trained ourselves not to see. And the impact on profits? The reporter pressed. Michael smiled. Smaller yachts for the board members, larger lives for the workers. The clip spread like wildfire. CEOs called angry, workers called grateful, politicians called wanting photo ops. Michael ignored them all. Because this wasn't about image or politics or even redemption. It was about a promise. To 2 children, to their mother, to himself. Later that week, an envelope arrived at the apartment. No return address. Just his name in neat handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a letter from his father. You've forgotten who you are. The Collins name means something. It doesn't belong on janitor appreciation plaques. Get control of yourself before the board gets control of you. Michael read it twice. Then he did something he'd never done before. He tore the letter in half in front of the twins. What was that? Zuri asked. The past, Michael said. We're doing something different now. And they were. Something that would change more lives than he could possibly imagine. Starting with their own. Being a billionaire was easier than being a father. Deals had rules. Kids didn't. There were no contracts for grief. Just long nights and messy mornings. Michael learned that quickly. He learned that Zuri liked her toast barely browned and would wrinkle her nose dramatically if he burned it. He learned that Cairo pretended he hated hugs, but clung a little too long when he thought no one was paying attention. He learned that both of them hated thunderstorms now. Mom used to count between the lightning and the thunder, Zuri explained one night, as rain pounded against the windows. She said it's like the sky taking a breath. The longer the space, the calmer it's getting. Can we do that? Cairo asked. His voice was too casual. His eyes were not. So they did. Lightning flash. 1, Zuri whispered. Thunder. Okay, she said. Not that mad. Have you ever watched someone trying to figure out how to be what someone else needs? Finding their way through grief while teaching others to do the same? He learned that grief shows up in strange ways. Cairo got into a fight at school when another kid said, "At least you got a rich dad now." He thought that meant Mom was upgradable. Cairo muttered after the principal's meeting. Like she was the free trial and you're the premium version. Michael wanted to find the kid and lecture him about value. Instead, he focused on his son. "I'm not an upgrade," he said. "I'm late to the party. Your mom was the whole show." Cairo didn't smile, but his shoulders relaxed a bit. Zuri stopped drawing for a week. Every time Michael suggested art, she'd shrug. "What's the point?" she'd say. "Mom's not here to put them on the fridge." So he bought a second-hand fridge for the apartment, hung her old drawings, left magnets beside it. He didn't say anything. One afternoon, he came home to find a fresh picture on the door. 3 figures. A woman with a faint halo drawn in the sky above them. A man with a suit and a crooked smile. 2 kids holding both their hands. "You gave me a mustache," he said, studying it. She shrugged. "You look weird without it," she said. He didn't have a mustache. Not yet. The next week, he let his facial hair grow. When Zuri noticed, she laughed for the first time in days. "Now you match," she said. He realized something important then. He couldn't replace Raven. He couldn't erase what happened. But he could be present. In grief. In growth. In the boring parts of their lives that no one writes headlines about. He became the expert on school lunches. Cairo liked turkey but hated ham. Zuri would only eat peanut butter if there was honey mixed in. Both of them traded their carrot sticks for cookies from other kids. So he started slipping a few extra cookies in their bags. "You're not supposed to give us junk food," Zuri informed him. "Mom said it's for special days. Every day you wake up is special," Michael replied. A line that would have sounded like a greeting card before now felt like the truest thing he knew. He learned that Cairo struggled with math but excelled at science. That Zuri could read 2 grade levels above her age but panicked during timed tests. That they both had nightmares they wouldn't talk about. Some nights, he'd find them asleep in the same bed, like they couldn't bear to be alone in the dark. He didn't make them separate. Instead, he sat in the hallway outside their room, laptop glowing as he worked, so they'd see him first if they woke afraid. One evening, the school called. "Mr. Collins, Zuri is in the art room and refuses to leave. She says she's waiting for her mom." He found her huddled under a table, clutching a painting of a woman with wings. "I forgot," she whispered when she saw him. "I forgot for a minute that she couldn't come." He sat on the floor beside her. "Sometimes I forget too," he admitted. "Does it ever stop hurting?" "I don't think so," he said. "But maybe we get stronger at carrying it." She nodded like that made sense. Can I hang this at the center? She asked, showing him the painting. Of course, he said. Everyone should see it. The twins' teacher pulled him aside during a parent conference. They're doing remarkably well, considering, she said. But there are moments. Triggers. Cairo got upset during family tree day. Zuri cried when we read a book about a mother bird. What do I do? Michael asked. Just what you're doing, she said. Be there. Let them know the ground won't disappear under their feet again. He was trying. God, he was trying. He rearranged his entire life around school pickups and doctor appointments, moved meetings to accommodate soccer practice, learned to braid Zuri's hair by watching YouTube tutorials at midnight. The board was getting restless. You're the CEO, his COO reminded him during a tense call. Not a nanny. I'm their father, Michael replied. Everything else comes second. He ended the call, then sat at the kitchen table and wondered if he was doing any of this right. That night, after the twins were asleep, he found himself looking through Raven's things. Her small box of jewelry, her books, her notebook with careful budgets and to-do lists. A folded piece of paper fell out. A letter she'd started writing to him years ago but never sent. Michael, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I hope the twins are okay. I hope you are somehow there for them. I don't know if you even know about them. I tried to tell you once. Maybe this letter will finally reach you. They are good children. Strong. Brave. They have your eyes and my stubbornness. They deserve more than I could give them alone. Please don't let them forget me. But also, please let them forget their anger at you. It wasn't your fault. Not all of it. Some choices were mine too. I should have tried harder to find you after your father intervened. I should have fought. But I was young and scared and proud. And then time passed, and it seemed too late. If I could go back, the letter ended there, unfinished. Like so much between them, he folded it carefully and put it away. Some pain you can't fix. You can only move forward, carrying it. Every time he tucked them in, he felt the weight of a promise. To be the man she needed him to be 10 years ago. Late. But not too late for them. Weeks passed. Then months. Slowly, the apartment changed. Zuri's drawings covered the walls. Cairo's science project dominated the kitchen table. Michael's laptop found a permanent home on the counter. The second-hand fridge became a gallery of their lives. New routines formed. Sunday morning pancakes. Friday movie nights. Homework at the kitchen table while Michael reviewed contracts. One evening, as he helped Cairo with a science project, the boy looked up suddenly. You're not leaving, are you? He asked. Ever? The question came out of nowhere. Or maybe it had been waiting all along. No, Michael said. I'm not leaving. Even if the board fires you? Michael blinked. Have you been worried about that? Cairo shrugged. I heard you arguing on the phone about us taking too much of your time. Let me be very clear, Michael said. If they fired me tomorrow, I'd still be here making your lunch the next day. The company doesn't define me anymore. You do. Later, he found Zuri in her room, surrounded by colored pencils, working on something she quickly covered when he entered. Secret project? He asked. She nodded. For your birthday. My birthday isn't for months, he said. I know, she replied. But I wanted to start now, in case something happens. His heart broke a little. Nothing's going to happen to me, he said. That's what Mom said too, Zuri reminded him. He sat beside her. I can't promise nothing will ever happen, he said. But I can promise that while I'm here, I will be really, truly here. Not just my body in the room, but all of me, paying attention, showing up, being your dad. She studied him, then nodded, apparently satisfied. Can I see what you're drawing? He asked. She hesitated, then showed him. It was a picture of the three of them, standing in front of a building with the words Raven James Center above the door. But in this drawing, there was a fourth figure, Raven, standing behind them, arms stretched wide, like she was holding them all. Is she watching us? Michael asked. Always, Zuri said with certainty. Mom sees everything now. Michael swallowed hard. I think you're right, he said. And if she was watching, he hoped she could see how hard he was trying, how much he was learning, how deeply he was loving her children, not because they were his, but because they were hers, because they were themselves, because they were worth staying for, in all the ways he wished he'd stayed before. A year later, the building felt different, not because of the plaque, because of the people. The break room for cleaning staff now had comfortable chairs, a fridge stocked with actual food, and a bulletin board covered in kids' drawings and thank you notes. Raven's photo sat in the center. Someone had drawn a small halo above her head. On the top floor, Michael's office had changed too. The view was the same, the city spread out like a glittering circuit board. But the walls held new frames. A basketball photo of Cairo, mid-jump shot, eyes fierce. A gallery flyer featuring Zuri's drawing of a woman holding a broom like a sword, titled Invisible No More. And in the middle, a photo someone had taken at the opening of the Raven Center. Michael stood between the twins, their hands in his. No one in the picture was smiling perfectly. Their faces were a mix of sadness and pride. It was honest. Dad, you're gonna be late, Cairo said, poking his head in. You promised to come to my game before the other parents steal the good seats. Dad, the word still sent a jolt through Michael every time he heard it. Not because it was strange anymore, but because of how natural it had become. When did it happen? Not all at once. First in moments of sleepiness or distraction. Then in emergencies, a scraped knee, a bad dream. Then finally, one ordinary morning over cereal, without fanfare or hesitation. I'm coming, Michael said, grabbing his jacket. You always say that, Cairo teased. But now you actually do it. It's weird. Get used to weird, Michael replied. Have you ever noticed how the biggest changes happen so gradually you barely see them? How one day you wake up and realize the impossible has become routine? On their way out, they passed the lobby. A janitor was mopping near the entrance. Morning, Mr. Collins, she said. Morning, Lila, he answered. He'd made it a point to learn names. How's your little girl? He asked. Lila's face lit up. She's good. The daycare upstairs is a blessing. I don't worry anymore. Good, he said. That's the point. Zuri tugged his sleeve. Can we stop by? She asked, nodding toward the plaque. He nodded. They stood in front of Raven's name. People flowed around them. I like that everyone has to walk past her, Zuri said. Like she's watching. She is, Michael said. Cairo traced the engraved letters with his finger. Do you ever feel like she's mad at you? He asked suddenly. Michael took a breath. I used to, he said. I spent months thinking she was somewhere I couldn't reach, listing every way I failed her. And now? Zuri asked. Now, he said slowly, I think she's busy, watching you two, laughing at my mistakes, shaking her head when I burn dinner, maybe mad sometimes. But mostly, I think she's relieved she doesn't have to hold everything alone. Zuri smiled through damp eyes. That sounds like her, she said. They walked outside. The sky was blue today, not for dramatic effect, just because some days are. At the game, Michael sat in the front row, yelling, louder than any other parent. When Cairo scored, he didn't look at the crowd to see who was cheering. He knew. Afterward, as they walked back to the car, Zuri slipped her hand into his. I drew something new, she said. For Mom. Yeah? He asked. What is it? A woman, she said, standing in a messy room. There's trash everywhere. No one else is there, but she's smiling because she knows someone will see her one day. He swallowed. Can I see it? He asked. When it's done, she said. Some pictures take time. He understood that now. Some stories, too. Back at the office, his assistant handed him a stack of messages. Your father called, she said. 3 times. Richard had stepped down from the board after the showdown, taken his money and his influence elsewhere. They hadn't spoken in months. What did he want? Michael asked. Wouldn't say, she replied. Just that it was important. He nodded. I'll call him later. But later kept stretching. There were more important things. Homework, dinner, bedtime stories, a life he hadn't known he could have. That evening, as he tucked Zuri in, she asked, Are you happy? The question caught him off guard. Yes, he said, surprised to find it true. Are you? She nodded. I still miss Mom. All the time. But I'm happy too. You know, that's okay, right? He said. Being both. Missing her. And being happy. I know, she said. That's what she'd want. Cairo appeared in the doorway in basketball shorts and a too-big t-shirt. Dad? He asked. Can we go to the center tomorrow? I want to show Coach Marcus where Mom's name is. Of course, Michael said. After they were asleep, he sat at the kitchen table and finally returned his father's call. It's about time, Richard said, voice sharp as ever. What do you want? Michael asked. I'm sick, his father said bluntly. Cancer. Advanced. The doctors give me 6 months. Maybe less. Michael's grip tightened on the phone. I'm sorry, he said, and meant it. I didn't call for sympathy, Richard said. I called because I have things to say. To you. To them. To who? Michael asked, though he already knew. My grandchildren, Richard said. I'd like to meet them. Once. Before I go. Michael closed his eyes. A year ago, he would have laughed at the request, would have felt vindicated by his father's sudden desire for connection. Now he wasn't sure. They're not props for your deathbed redemption, he said. I know that, Richard replied. But they're blood. Mine too. Whatever I did, whatever we both did, they deserve to know where they come from. I'll think about it, Michael said. Don't think too long, Richard said. Time isn't on my side. After they hung up, Michael sat in silence. Would Raven want this? Her children meeting the man who'd condemned her to a decade of invisibility? Would the twins? Cairo with his questions about good people? Zuri with her unwavering belief that her mother saw everything? He didn't know. The next day, he took them to the center as promised. Cairo proudly showed his coach around, pointing out the programs, the resources, the photo of Raven. Your mom made all this happen? Coach Marcus asked. She made it necessary, Michael corrected, coming up behind them. I just built the thing she showed me was missing. The coach nodded, understanding. As they were leaving, an elderly woman in a cleaner's uniform stopped them. Mr. Collins, she said, I've been meaning to thank you. The medical fund helped my husband get his surgery. He's back at work now. I'm glad, Michael said. Mrs. Raven would be proud, the woman added, looking at the twins. Of all of you. Outside, Zuri took Michael's hand. Sometimes I think Mom got what she wanted, she said. How do you mean? He asked. She wanted you to see her, Zuri said. And now you see everybody. It was true. He couldn't walk through the building anymore without noticing the people who kept it running. He couldn't pass a cleaner or security guard without exchanging greetings. His father would call it wasteful, inefficient. He called it human. That night, he sat the twins down in the living room. There's something I need to tell you, he said. Something I want your opinion on. They looked at him expectantly. Your grandfather, my father, called me yesterday. He's sick. He wants to meet you both. Once. Before he dies. Cairo's brow furrowed. The one who was mean to Mom? Who tried to hide us? Yes, Michael said. Why does he want to see us now? Zuri asked. I think, when people face the end, they sometimes try to fix what they broke. Or at least understand it better. Do we have to? Cairo asked. No, Michael said firmly. This is entirely your choice, both of you. The twins looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations they'd perfected over years. What would Mom want? Zuri finally asked. And that was the question that had kept Michael awake all night. What would Raven want for her children? For the father who had tried to erase them? For the son who had finally seen her, but too late? The answer was right there, in her name on the wall. In the center, she'd inspired. In the way she'd raised 2 children to see value where others saw nothing. I think, Michael said carefully, she would want you to decide for yourselves. But I also think she would want you to remember that forgiving someone doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you're choosing not to carry their weight anymore. Cairo nodded slowly. I want to meet him, he said. Just once, to see. Me too, Zuri added. But only if you come with us, Dad. Always, Michael promised. And in that moment, he understood something profound about the family they'd built from broken pieces. Some wounds never fully heal, but they can become part of a stronger whole. Some debts can never be fully repaid, but they can be acknowledged, honored, remembered. Some people we lose forever, but we can still find our way forward, carrying their light. As long as we remember to look down, as long as we remember to see, as long as we make sure their names stay on the wall. Years later, people would ask Michael Collins about the turning point. They'd expect him to mention a deal, a market crash, a business book. He never did. He always thought of a trash bag. A little boy in a doorway saying, "Please, don't be mad at my mom." A woman in blue gloves who'd been cleaning around his life for a decade. He thought of his knees hitting cheap office carpet when he realized who she really was. And again, hitting the hospital floor when he realized he'd run out of time to fix it. He built more things, of course. That's what men like him do. More centers, more policies that made other CEOs roll their eyes until public pressure forced them to copy him. He testified in front of committees about frontline workers and invisible labor. He always used her name, Raven. He never let her be a symbol without a story. At home, Zuri grew into an artist whose work made people cry in galleries. She painted cleaners with halos, mothers with tired backs, kids sleeping on benches. People like sad art. A critic once said, "It's not sad," Zuri replied. "It's true." Cairo became a coach, not just for sports, for kids who lived in motels, kids with one parent, or none, kids who smelled like the kind of hunger money alone doesn't fix. My mom cleaned offices, he'd tell them. My dad cleaned his soul, eventually. You don't have to be what the world expects. You can be more. How many lives change because one person decides to truly see another? How many invisible people are waiting for someone to simply acknowledge their existence? Sometimes, late at night, when the apartment was quiet and the twins, no, not twins anymore, adults now, were out living their own lives, Michael would sit at the kitchen table. He'd stare at Raven's mug, still there. A small chip on the rim. He'd think about all the times he hadn't seen her, all the times he'd seen only his reflection in the glass. If you asked him what the moral of his story was, he'd say this: you're not as self-made as you think. Someone was cleaning your mess when you were too busy calling yourself a genius. If you don't know their name, you're failing. He'd pause. Then he'd add, and don't wait 10 years to look down, because if you're not careful, you'll discover who someone really was at their funeral, or on a cold hospital floor. And by then, the only thing left to do is fall to your knees and wish you'd seen them sooner. The Raven James Centers spread, first across his company, then to others, then to cities, funded by a foundation he established. Not charity, justice. The twins spoke at the opening of each one. Zuri's art hung in the lobbies. Cairo's coaching programs filled the activity rooms. When reporters asked why they kept doing this, Cairo would say, because my mother shouldn't have died. Cleaning floors, Zuri would add, because everyone deserves to be seen. Michael would simply point to the plaque bearing Raven's name. Some stories end with everyone holding hands in the sunset. This one didn't. Raven didn't get her park picnic. She didn't get old in a chair by the window. She didn't get to watch Zuri hang her paintings in real galleries, or see Cairo yell at kids to tie their shoelaces on the court. Her ending was unfair, messy, real. But her life? Her life moved a billionaire. It changed policies. It fed other people's kids. It turned 2 children into forces the world had to reckon with. And it left a mark in the shape of a woman holding a mop, like a sword, on the wall of a glass building, where everyone had to walk past and answer a quiet question. Who are you not seeing, while you're busy looking at yourself? On the anniversary of Raven's death each year, Michael still took the day off. He and the twins would visit her grave, leave flowers, tell her the latest news as if she might be listening. Then they'd go to the center and volunteer. Cleaning, serving food, whatever was needed. The richest man in the city mopping floors. A reporter once commented, "Camera crew in tow." No, Michael corrected. Just a man remembering what matters. The story spread further than he expected. Other executives started following his example. 1 day a year, rolling up sleeves, doing the work they usually paid others to do. Some did it for the PR. Some did it and actually learned something. He didn't care why. He only cared that more people started looking beyond their reflections. At the 10-year memorial service for Raven, thousands came. Not just from his company, from centers across the country, from communities she'd never even known, but that had been changed because of her story. Zuri unveiled a new painting, a woman standing in darkness, holding a light. Behind her, a line of other figures, each taking a light from the one before, stretching backward and forward as far as the eye could see. "My mother thought she was invisible," Zuri told the crowd. But she was the most visible person in the room, the most real, the most true. We just didn't have eyes to see her. Cairo spoke about legacy. "Some people leave buildings with their names on them," he said. "My mom left something better. She left people who remember her name, people who live differently because she lived." When it was Michael's turn, he kept it simple. 10 years ago, I was half a person," he said. "I had money, power, success. But I walked past the mother of my children for a decade without seeing her. I was the poorest rich man you could imagine." He paused. "Now, I know better. I look at the custodian cleaning the bathroom, and I see someone's parent, someone's child, someone with dreams and heart and value beyond what they do for me. That's what Raven taught me. That's what I try to teach others." After the service, a young woman approached him, a cleaner, judging by her uniform. "Sir," she said shyly, "I just wanted to say thank you. Because of the center, I can afford night classes. My kids have health care. We moved out of our car last month." "What's your name?" Michael asked. "Maria," she said. "Thank you for telling me, Maria," he replied. "But I'm not the one who did this. Raven is. And all the people who refused to stay invisible." That night, as he drove home with the twins, Zuri asked a question that had been circling for years. "Dad," she said, "do you think Mom forgave you? Really forgave you?" Michael considered this. "I think," he said slowly, "she forgave me before I deserved it. And I think she'd be glad we built something from that forgiveness instead of from guilt." "I miss her," Cairo said simply. "Me too," Michael replied. And they did, every day. But they also lived fully, completely, in a way Raven would have wanted. If this story stays with your viewers long after the video ends, if it makes them think about the Ravens in their own life, that's when you'll know it did exactly what it was meant to do. Some people we walk past daily without truly seeing. The barista who remembers your order, the janitor who keeps your workspace clean, the delivery driver who brings your packages in the rain. They all have names, dreams, stories that would break your heart or lift it up. They all deserve to be seen, not after it's too late, but now, today. While there's still time to learn their names,